In a quiet forest, bathed in the soft golden light of late afternoon, a single leaf lets go. It does not fight, it does not cling in desperation. It simply releases its hold on the branch that has been its home all season and begins a slow, silent dance with gravity. It spirals gently, turning this way and that, catching the unseen currents of the air, a final, graceful waltz before coming to rest upon the forest floor. There is no struggle in this descent, no fear, only a quiet acceptance, a profound and simple peace. Now, imagine a different scene. A street in a city, loud with the blare of horns and the hurried footsteps of 1,000 people. See a person caught in this river of noise and urgency, their faces tight with tension, their shoulders hunched towards their ears. Their phone is a permanent extension of their hand, buzzing with demands, notifications, and the endless scrolling pressure of other people's curated successes. They are clinging to their schedule, clinging to their career, clinging to the image of who they are supposed to be. They are terrified of falling behind, of failing, of letting go of the one thing that seems to offer security, which is control. Their life is not a dance, but a battle, a constant, exhausting war against the unpredictable nature of existence, a desperate attempt to hold the branch, even as the season changes and the winds of life begin to blow. This feeling is not unfamiliar. It is the quiet hum of anxiety beneath the surface of our modern world, the sense that we must constantly strive, push, and resist, lest we be swept away. We build walls of routine and expectation, hoping to keep chaos at bay, yet we find ourselves prisoners within them. We fear the fall, because we have been taught that the fall is the end. It is failure. It is loss. But what if we have been looking at it all wrong? What if that single silent leaf in the forest holds a secret, a form of wisdom that our hurried world has forgotten? What if the peace we so desperately seek is not found in holding on tighter, but in learning the gentle art of letting go? What if falling is not an end, but a journey? The Zen tradition has long looked to the natural world for its most profound lessons, and in the simple, inevitable act of a leaf falling from a tree, it offers not a symbol of death, but a complete and beautiful guide on how to truly live. This is an invitation to pause, to breathe, and to learn from that leaf. It is a journey into the heart of acceptance and the discovery of the peace that awaits when we finally allow ourselves to fall. Before a leaf can ever truly fall, it must first understand the nature of the wind. The wind is the first great teacher, the invisible force that shapes the world. It can be a gentle caress, a soft murmur through the branches on a warm summer day, or it can be a sudden, violent gale that tears and howls with impartial fury. The leaf, in its simple wisdom, does not judge the wind. It does not demand that the breeze be gentle, nor does it curse the storm when it arrives. It understands a fundamental truth that we, in our complex lives, so often forget. The wind simply is. It cannot be negotiated with, it cannot be reasoned with, and it cannot be controlled. To fight it is to invite exhaustion. To resist it is to prepare to be broken. In our own lives, the wind takes on many forms. It is the sudden email from a client, changing the deadline and undoing a week's worth of work. It is the stock market plunging, erasing savings that were years in the making. It is the unexpected diagnosis from a doctor, a word that alters the entire landscape of the future. It is the relationship that ends, not with a bang, but with a slow, cold drifting apart that feels beyond your power to stop. It is a global pandemic, a political shift, a change in company leadership. These are the gusts, the currents, and the hurricanes of our existence. They are the forces that are utterly indifferent to our plans, our hopes, and our desires. And what is our typical response to this wind? We brace ourselves, we clench our jaws, tighten our fists, and try to stand firm against it. We build walls of rigid expectations and tell ourselves, this should not be happening. We expend enormous amounts of energy complaining about the wind, analyzing why the wind is so unfair, and wishing desperately for the wind to blow in a different direction. This resistance is the very source of our deepest anxieties. The suffering is not in the wind itself, but in the tension of our opposition to it. A branch that is stiff and unyielding is the one that is most likely to snap in a storm. A mind that is rigid with expectation is the one that is most likely to shatter when faced with the undeniable reality of change. We believe our struggle is with the external event, but the true battle is waged entirely within us. It is the exhausting, internal friction of our desires rubbing against the unchangeable texture of reality. The leaf offers a different way. It does not resist, it yields. And in this yielding, it finds a strange and beautiful kind of freedom. This is not the surrender of defeat. It is the surrender of profound intelligence. When the wind blows, the leaf allows itself to be moved. It turns the force that could have ripped it from its stem into a partner in a dance. It floats, it dips, it soars on the very current it was never meant to control. By giving up the illusion of control, it gains the gift of flight. It trusts the journey. It finds a gracefulness not in spite of the wind, but because of it. There is an old story that has been told for centuries which perfectly illustrates this wisdom. It is the story of a farmer in a small ancient village. One day, his only horse, a beautiful and strong stallion he relied on for plowing his fields, ran away. His neighbors all came to console him. "Oh, what terrible luck," they said, shaking their heads. "Your only horse is gone. This is a disaster." The farmer simply listened, nodded, and replied, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" A week later, the horse returned, and it was not alone. It had led a herd of 10 wild, magnificent horses back to the farmer's corral. The neighbors, hearing the news, rushed back to his house, their faces beaming. "What incredible fortune," they exclaimed. "You lost one horse, and now you have 11. This is a blessing." The farmer, busy mending his fence to keep the new horses in, just looked at them and said, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" The very next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown from its back, and his leg was badly broken. The neighbors gathered once more, their voices filled with pity. "How awful," they lamented. "Your son, your only help in the fields, is now crippled. This is surely the worst luck of all." The farmer, sitting by his son's bedside, calmly replied, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" A few weeks passed, and the country went to war. The emperor's army came through the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for the front lines. The journey was long and the battle was fierce, and everyone knew that most of the young men would never return. But when the soldiers came to the farmer's house, they saw his son with his broken leg, and they passed him by. The neighbors, many of them weeping for their own sons, came to the farmer. "You were right," they said. "Your son was spared. Your supposed bad luck was actually the greatest good luck." The farmer, looking out over his fields, simply said, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" This farmer understood the nature of the wind. He knew that he could not control the coming and going of horses, the accidents of his son, or the decrees of the emperor. These were the unpredictable currents of life. His peace did not come from trying to label these events as good or bad, fortunate or unfortunate. His peace came from his acceptance of them. He separated the event itself from the story he told about it. By refusing to immediately judge the situation, he freed himself from the emotional roller coaster of elation and despair that his neighbors were constantly riding. He conserved his energy, not for celebrating or lamenting, but for the tasks at hand, mending the fence, caring for his son, living his life. This is the first great practice in learning to live like a falling leaf. It is the practice of recognizing the wind for what it is. When that challenging email arrives, or that unexpected bill appears, or that criticism is leveled against you, the first step is to pause, to take a single, conscious breath. And in that pause, to say to yourself, "This is the wind." Simply by naming it, you create a small space between the event and your reaction. You acknowledge that this is an external force, something you cannot control. In that space, you can begin to untangle the fact from the story. The fact is, my boss is unhappy with the report. The story is, I am a failure. I'm going to be fired. My life is ruined. The wind is the fact. The suffering, the tension, the anxiety, all come from the story. The leaf does not tell itself stories about the wind. It simply feels its presence and adjusts. Our power, our true agency, lies not in trying to command the wind, but in learning how to adjust our own sails. We cannot control the external world, but we can, with practice, choose our internal response. You cannot stop the gust of another person's anger, but you can choose to take a breath instead of shouting back. You cannot prevent a loved one's illness, but you can choose to offer them your calm and loving presence instead of your panic. This is your rudder. While the wind of life may push you in directions you did not plan, your response is the one thing that gives you a measure of gentle guidance. It determines whether you are shattered by the storm or whether you learn to dance within it. So the first lesson is this: make peace with the wind. Stop wasting your precious life. Force in the futile struggle against what is. Accept that some things are simply beyond your control. This acceptance is not a sign of weakness or passivity. It is the ultimate source of strength and serenity. It is the foundation upon which all other wisdom rests. Once we begin to accept this truth about the world outside of us, a new question naturally arises. If the world around us is in such constant, uncontrollable flux, what does that say about us? Are we the one solid, unchanging rock in this swirling river of change? Or are we too, just like the wind and just like the leaf itself? This leads us to our next great lesson, the lesson of our own beautiful, transient, and ever-changing nature. Having made a fragile peace with the wind, that great and uncontrollable force of the external world, the leaf now turns its awareness inward. It is not just the world around it that is in flux. The leaf itself is an embodiment of change. It did not begin its life yellow and brittle, ready to fall. It emerged in the spring as a tiny, tender bud, full of vibrant chlorophyll green life. It spent the summer in its prime, broad and strong, drinking in the sunlight and nourishing the tree. Now, as autumn approaches, a profound transformation is happening from within. The vibrant green is giving way to shades of gold, amber, and crimson. It is not a sickness, nor is it a failure. It is a natural, necessary, and beautiful unfolding. It is the law of impermanence. In the Pali language of the earliest Buddhist text, this concept is called anicca. It means simply that all conditioned things are in a constant state of flux. Nothing lasts. Everything that arises will eventually pass away. This is not a dark philosophy, but a simple observation of reality, as fundamental as the law of gravity. Yet, in our modern world, we have declared a total war on this law. We live in a culture that is fundamentally dedicated to the denial of impermanence. Consider our obsession with youth. We spend billions on creams and surgeries designed to halt the graceful arch of time across our faces. We use filters to erase the lines of laughter and experience from our photographs, trying to freeze frame ourselves in a permanent summer, terrified of the coming autumn. We see aging not as a process of gathering wisdom, but as a disease to be fought. We cling to the green leaf, refusing to acknowledge the beauty and dignity of the golden one. Consider our craving for stability. We are taught to build a life as if it were a fortress, with a secure career, a steadily growing bank account, and a predictable routine. We want to reach a plateau of success and happiness and then stay there forever. When the economy shifts, when our career path takes an unexpected turn, or when our own interests and passions evolve, we feel a sense of panic, as if something has gone terribly wrong. We treat life not as a flowing river, but as a stagnant pond, and we are terrified of any ripple that disturbs its surface. This relentless pursuit of permanence in a world that is defined by its lack of it is a recipe for constant frustration and anxiety. It is like trying to build a house of stone on the surface of the ocean. This struggle against the current of time is the source of so much of our quiet suffering. When we experience a moment of pure joy, a perfect vacation, a child's laughter, a feeling of deep connection with another, a subtle anxiety often creeps in. We start to grasp at it, to think, how can I make this last forever? And in that very act of grasping, we lose the ability to fully inhabit the moment. We are no longer present for the joy. We are already mourning its future departure. When we face hardship, our resistance to impermanence makes it worse. We believe the gray, rainy sky of our mood is a permanent weather system. We think, I will feel this way forever, and this thought transforms a passing storm into a prison of despair. We cling to everything, to pleasure, to youth, to security, to life itself, and this clinging is the true cause of our pain. As the Zen saying goes, you can only lose what you cling to. But what if we could change our perspective? What if impermanence, anicca, is not a curse, but a profound gift? Its first gift is that it makes everything precious. Think of the Japanese tradition of hanami, the viewing of cherry blossoms. People travel across the world and gather in parks for the singular purpose of watching these delicate pink flowers. Why? Because they last for only a week or two. Their breathtaking beauty is inseparable from their fleetingness. If cherry blossoms were permanent, they would be as mundane as plastic decorations. It is their passing that makes them so intensely alive. The same is true for the vibrant colors of a sunset, the final notes of a beloved piece of music, the taste of a perfect meal. Their impermanence commands our attention. It urges us, be here now. This will not come again. The second gift of impermanence is hope. It is the absolute guarantee that nothing, not even the deepest pain, lasts forever. When you are lost in grief, overwhelmed by anxiety, or stuck in a difficult situation, the law of anicca is a lifeline. This state you are in is not your final destination. The clouds will part. The season will change. The pain will soften. This truth does not invalidate the suffering you feel now, but it places it in a larger context, offering a sliver of light in the darkness. It is the promise of renewal, the engine of all growth and healing. There is a powerful story from the life of the Buddha that illustrates this lesson with heartbreaking clarity. It is the story of a young woman named Kisa Gotami. Her life was simple and happy until her only son, a small toddler, fell ill and died. Consumed by a grief so vast it drove her to madness, she refused to accept his death. She picked up his small, lifeless body and wandered through her village, going from door to door, begging for a medicine that could bring her son back to life. Some people mocked her, others turned away in pity, but no one could help her. Finally, a compassionate old man saw her plight and suggested she go see the Buddha. Carrying her son, she found the Enlightened One and pleaded her case. The Buddha looked at her with immense compassion and said, "There is only one way to cure your son. You must bring me back a single mustard seed, but it must be taken from a house where no one, not a parent, a child, a spouse, or a servant has ever died." Kisa Gotami's heart soared with hope. A mustard seed was such a simple thing. She set off immediately. At the first house she asked, "Can you spare me a mustard seed for a medicine to cure my son?" The woman of the house replied, "Of course," and went to get it. As the woman returned, Kisa Gotami asked the crucial question, "Has anyone ever died in this house?" The woman's face fell. "Oh, my lady," she said softly, "the living are few, but the dead are many. My husband died here only last year." Kisa Gotami went to the next house, and the next, and the one after that. The story was always the same. Everyone was willing to give her a mustard seed, for it was a common spice. But no one could provide it under her condition. One person said, "I have lost my mother." Another said, "My brother died here." Another, "We lost our youngest child." She went through the entire village, and as the sun began to set, the truth finally dawned on her. There was not a single household that had not been visited by death. Her own unique, unbearable grief was in fact the most common, universal experience of all humanity. She was not alone. With this profound realization, her frantic struggles ceased. She understood that death was not a personal attack on her, but an inseparable part of the fabric of life. Gently, she carried her son's body to the cremation ground and laid him to rest. She returned to the Buddha not with a mustard seed in her hand, but with a deep, sorrowful, and transformative understanding in her heart. The Buddha had not given her a magic potion. He had given her a direct, experiential lesson in the truth of impermanence. Her healing did not come from reversing her loss, but from finally, fully accepting it. To embrace impermanence is to begin the process of healing. It is to learn to hold life with an open hand rather than a clenched fist. You can practice this every day. Notice the steam rising from your morning coffee and disappearing into the air. Watch a cloud transform its shape as it drifts across the sky. Feel a moment of happiness, and instead of grasping, simply say thank you for its visit. Feel a wave of sadness and, instead of resisting, gently acknowledge it, knowing it is a visitor that will not stay forever. When we truly understand that everything is a temporary guest in the house of our awareness, our relationship with life changes. We become less fearful and more appreciative. We find the courage to live more fully, to love more deeply, and to forgive more easily, knowing that this moment, this day, this life is a precious and unrepeatable gift. The leaf, ablaze in its autumn glory, understands this. It does not mourn its lost greenness. It celebrates its current goldenness. It knows its time on the branch is coming to an end. It has made peace with the wind, and it has accepted its own transient nature. Now it faces the final courageous act born of this wisdom. It is ready to do what it must do next, to let go. Having understood the impartial nature of the wind and accepted the profound truth of its own impermanence, the leaf now arrives at a moment of supreme importance. This is not a moment of passive understanding, but a moment of active participation. It is the act of letting go. The wind may push and pull, the seasons may command the change, but there is a final, subtle release, a surrender of its grip on the one thing that has represented its entire world until now, the branch. This branch is the most powerful metaphor for everything we cling to. It is our past in all its forms. For some, it is the branch of past successes, a golden era we endlessly refer back to. The promotion we received a decade ago, the athletic trophy we won in our youth, the memory of a time when we felt vibrant, loved, and on top of the world. We cling to this branch because it reminds us of our worth. But in clinging to who we were, we prevent ourselves from becoming who we could be. We become like a retired general, endlessly polishing old medals while a new and different world passes us by. The branch of past glory becomes a cage, limiting our view of the vast sky that is now available to us. For others, the branch is one of past wounds. It is rough and thorny, covered in the splinters of betrayal, the scars of failure, the hollows of grief. We cling to it with a white-knuckled grip, replaying old arguments in our minds, endlessly picking at the scabs of old hurts. We believe, on some deep level, that holding on to the pain is necessary. Perhaps we feel it honors our suffering, or that it will somehow protect us from being hurt again. But the branch of old wounds does not support us. We are the ones holding it up, feeding it our life. Force dedicating our precious present moments to the service of a pain that is long past. It tethers us to a history of sorrow and prevents us from feeling the fresh breeze of the now. And perhaps the most tenacious branch of all is the branch of our identity. It is the story we tell ourselves about who we are. I am a successful person. I am an anxious person. I am a victim. I am a good parent. I am not creative. These labels, both positive and negative, create a rigid structure that we mistake for ourselves. We cling to this story because it feels safe. It gives us a sense of definition in a chaotic world. But when life asks us to be flexible, to learn something new, to admit we were wrong, or to let go of a role that no longer serves us, we feel an intense threat. It feels not like we are letting go of an idea, but that we are facing annihilation. Letting go of the branch threatens the very story of me. We cling because the branch is known. The journey downward, into the open air, is the great unknown, and the human mind is terrified of the unknown. We would rather suffer in a familiar prison than step into a frightening freedom. But the leaf knows something we forget. The purpose of a leaf is not to cling to a branch forever. Its purpose is to grow, to change, and ultimately to fall, so that it can nourish the earth and continue the cycle of life. Its letting go is not an end, but a vital fulfillment of its purpose. There is a classic Zen story that speaks directly to this clinging. Two monks, one senior and one junior, were on a long pilgrimage. They walked for many hours in silence. Eventually, they came to a river where the bridge had been washed away. The current was strong, and the riverbed was thick with mud. On the bank stood a beautiful young woman in a fine silk kimono, looking distressed. She was clearly unable to cross without ruining her expensive clothes and likely being swept away. Without hesitation, the senior monk walked up to her, bent down, and gestured for her to climb onto his back. He then carefully waded across the powerful river, holding her above the water. When they reached the other side, he gently set her down. She gave a short, almost dismissive, "Thank you," and hurried on her way. The monk simply bowed his head and continued his journey. The junior monk was utterly appalled. He was speechless. His mind was a whirlwind of judgment and outrage. Monks are strictly forbidden from touching women. This is a grave violation of our vows. And she wasn't even grateful. He followed his master for the rest of the afternoon, walking in a stormy, indignant silence. He replayed the scene over and over, building his case, fanning the flames of his self-righteous anger. Finally, as they neared the monastery at dusk, he could contain himself no longer. He burst out, "Master, how could you have done that? How could you have touched that woman? You broke our sacred precepts. You carried her in your arms." The old monk stopped, turned to his young student, and looked at him with clear, calm eyes. A gentle smile touched his lips. "Brother," he said softly, "I left that woman by the river miles ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story is a perfect mirror for our minds. Most of us are the junior monk. We carry things. We carry the argument we had this morning. We carry the mistake we made last year. We carry the insult someone threw at us in traffic. We carry our parents' expectations. We carry our own failures. We think we are walking freely, but our minds are burdened with the weight of 1,000 women by the river. We are still clinging to 100 branches from a forest we passed through long ago. The senior monk demonstrates the wisdom of letting go. He saw a problem in the present moment. He acted with simple, unhesitating compassion, and when the moment was over, it was over. He put the woman down, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. He was free, not because he was a perfect monk, but because he knew how to uncling. So, how do we practice this? Letting go is not a passive fading of memory. It is an active and courageous choice. The first step is to see what you are carrying. You must acknowledge the branch you are holding. Look at it. Feel its weight. Understand what it is: a regret, a resentment, a story about yourself. Don't judge it, just see it clearly. The second step is to recognize the cost of this clinging. Ask yourself, what is this doing to me? How much of my daily energy is spent watering this old story? What peace, what presence, what joy am I sacrificing to maintain this grip? When you truly see the price you are paying, the desire to let go will arise naturally. The final step is the conscious act of release. This can be a quiet internal decision, or it can be a small ritual. You might write down the thing you are letting go of on a piece of paper and safely burn it, watching the smoke carry it away. You might go to a river and throw a stone in, imagining it is the weight you have been carrying. Or you might simply close your eyes, visualize yourself opening your hands, and with an out-breath say, "I choose to put this down now." You may have to do it again and again. The mind has deep grooves. The story may reappear tomorrow, but this is why it is called a practice. Each time you choose to let go, you weaken the grip of the past and strengthen your muscle of presence. You are training yourself to be the senior monk. By letting go of the branch, the leaf does not fail. It fulfills its destiny. It trades the static safety of the known for the dynamic freedom of the unknown. It is an act of supreme trust, a declaration that it is ready for the next phase of its journey. And in that release, it does not plummet into a void. It enters a new element. It begins its final, beautiful, and liberating dance in the open air. The branch is gone. For a moment, there is a sense of weightlessness, a separation from the only source of stability the leaf has ever known. In our human imagination, this moment is filled with terror. It is the stomach-lurching plunge of a roller coaster, a panicked, uncontrolled fall straight to the earth. But this is not the leaf's reality. Watch closely. The fall is not a plummet, it is a performance. The leaf begins to drift, to turn, to catch the invisible currents of the air. It glides on an updraft, rising for a moment against the very gravity that pulls it. It spins in a slow pirouette, showcasing its colors to the sky. It flutters and skims, less a victim of falling and more a partner with the air and the space it moves through. This is the dance of descent. The journey is not a straight line from point A to point B, from branch to ground. The journey is the dance itself, a graceful, unhurried exploration of the in-between. We, in our hurried lives, have forgotten the importance of this dance. We are a culture obsessed with destinations. We live our lives on a linear track, our eyes fixed firmly on the next milestone. We endure high school to get to college. We endure college to get a job. We endure the work week to get to the weekend. We endure our youth to achieve the stability of adulthood. We endure adulthood to reach the freedom of retirement. Our lives become a series of checkpoints, and the vast, rich, and unpredictable spaces in between are treated as mere inconveniences, empty time to be rushed through as quickly as possible. We are always trying to get somewhere, believing that happiness is a location waiting for us at the end of the struggle. The tragedy of this mindset is the hollow emptiness that often greets us upon arrival. You get the promotion you worked for, and after a brief flash of excitement, your mind is already asking, what's next? You finally take the long-awaited vacation, only to find yourself checking work emails or planning the next day's itinerary, unable to simply be where you are. We are so focused on the goal of hitting the ground that we completely miss the sublime beauty of the fall. We seek the satisfaction of the destination, while life's true richness is found only in the texture of the journey. The leaf's dance is the very essence of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the simple yet profound act of paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. Imagine what the leaf might perceive in its descent. It feels the crisp air flowing over its surface. It registers the warmth of a sunbeam breaking through the canopy. It sees the world below not as a target, but as a turning kaleidoscope of light, color, and shadow. It is utterly and completely absorbed in the sensory experience of now. It is not reminiscing about the branch, nor is it catastrophizing about the landing. It is simply, fully engaged in the act of falling. This is what all practices of mindfulness invite us to do, to return to our senses, to disengage from the frantic storytelling of the mind, and to land in the physical reality of the present. It is to feel the air entering your lungs and the gentle expansion of your chest. It is to notice the solid feeling of your feet on the earth. It is to truly taste the complexity of flavors in a single bite of food. This is how we stop plummeting and begin to dance. There is a timeless Zen story that captures this principle with breathtaking power. It is the story of a man who finds himself in a truly hopeless situation. While walking through a field, he is suddenly charged by a ferocious tiger. He flees for his life, running as fast as he can until he reaches the edge of a high cliff. With no other choice, he grabs onto a thick vine hanging over the edge and swings himself down. As he dangles there, clinging to the vine, he looks up and sees the tiger, snarling and clawing at the edge of the cliff above him. His heart sinks. Then he looks down, hoping for an escape route, only to see another tiger on the ground below, looking up at him, licking its chops. He is trapped between the past he is running from and a future that promises certain doom. To make the situation impossibly worse, he notices two small mice, one white and one black, have emerged from a crevice in the cliff. They begin to nibble at the very vine he is clinging to. He understands their meaning immediately. The white mouse is day, and the black mouse is night. Time itself is eating away at his precarious hold on life. His situation is not just dangerous, it is utterly, mathematically hopeless. In this moment of absolute despair, as he hangs between the tiger of the past and the tiger of the future, with time itself dissolving his lifeline, his eyes catch a glimpse of color on the cliff face beside him. Growing from a small patch of earth is a single wild strawberry, perfectly ripe and glowing a deep, luscious red. He looks at the tiger above, He looks at the tiger below. He looks at the mice methodically chewing through the vine. Then he looks back at the strawberry. Carefully, with his free hand, he reaches out, plucks the strawberry from its stem, brings it to his lips, and puts it in his mouth. The story ends with a single, simple sentence. How sweet it tasted. This is not a tale about ignoring reality. It is a profound teaching about the nature of reality. The tigers are real, the mice are real, but the strawberry is also real. The tigers represent our regrets and anxieties, the past that pursues us and the future that terrifies us. The vine is our fragile life, and the mice are the relentless passage of time. And the strawberry? The strawberry is the present moment. It is the only place life ever actually happens. The man did not deny his peril, but he refused to allow his peril to rob him of the only reality he had left, the taste of a strawberry, right here, right now. His liberation was not in escaping his fate, but in fully inhabiting his present. We are all hanging from that vine. We are all pursued by the tigers of our past mistakes and future worries. The mice of time are always nibbling, but all around us, in every moment, there are strawberries. The taste of your morning tea, the feeling of sunlight on your skin, the sound of rain against the window, the genuine smile of a stranger. These are not small, insignificant things. They are everything. They are the texture of life itself. To join the dance of descent is to start noticing the strawberries. It is to give up the relentless judgment of your own performance. The leaf does not worry if it is falling correctly, or if another leaf is spinning with more elegance. It simply falls. Likewise, we must let go of our internal scorecard. There is no good or bad way to be present. There is only being present or being lost in thought. When you notice you are lost, you gently, without scolding yourself, return to the breath, to the senses, you return to the dance. Your breath is the vine you can always hold on to, the anchor that connects you to the sweet taste of the now. By embracing the dance, we transform our entire experience of life. We learn that peace is not a destination we must race towards. Peace is the very quality of attention we bring to the journey. It is a way of traveling. But the path of the falling leaf is not always a smooth, sunlit glide. The weather can change in an instant. The dance can be interrupted. And sometimes, as the leaf makes its descent, it begins to rain. How it meets these moments of challenge, these burdens that threaten to weigh it down, is the next crucial step in our journey to the ground. The leaf has let go. It is now fully committed to the journey, surrendered to the air, engaged in the mindful dance of descent. For a time, the journey is one of serene, weightless grace. The air is calm, the light is soft. But the sky, like life, is not a static canvas. An unseen shift occurs in the atmosphere. A cloud slides across the face of the sun, and the world's color palette cools from gold to gray. Then, a single, cold drop of rain lands squarely on the leaf's surface. The impact is a tiny shock. The perfect equilibrium of the dance is disturbed. Suddenly, there is weight. The leaf, which was moments ago a feather, now feels anchored, heavy. Another drop lands, and then another. They merge into a single shimmering bead of water that pulls the leaf downward, hastening its fall, stripping it of its effortless glide. These raindrops are our difficult emotions. They are the inevitable weather patterns of the human heart. We cannot plan for them, and we cannot prevent them from arriving. Anxiety is a fine, cold drizzle that seems to come from nowhere, soaking everything in a layer of damp apprehension and making the path ahead seem slick and treacherous. Anger is a sudden, hard-driving downpour, a violent burst that stings and blinds us, overwhelming our senses with its intensity. Sadness and grief are a slow, heavy dew that accumulates over time, a gathering weight of sorrow that bends us toward the earth, making every movement an effort. Guilt and resentment are like sticky, sap-like drops that refuse to roll off, clinging to us, holding our attention captive long after the initial storm has passed. Faced with this emotional rain, our typical human reactions are often unskilled and unhelpful. The first strategy is denial. We pretend it isn't raining. We feel the cold drop of anxiety land in our stomach, and we immediately distract ourselves. We plunge into our work, we scroll endlessly through our phones, we turn the television up louder, we tell ourselves and everyone around us, "I'm fine, everything is fine," all while the internal weight gets heavier and heavier. We are trying to ignore a growing burden that is actively disrupting our balance, pulling us down faster and faster. The second and perhaps more common strategy is to drown. This is the reaction of over-identification. When the feeling of sadness arrives, we don't just feel it, we become it. The story in our mind shifts from, "I am a person who is currently feeling sadness," to the much more powerful and destructive statement, "I am a sad person." The raindrop is no longer a temporary visitor on the leaf's surface. The leaf starts to believe that it is the raindrop. We become completely consumed and defined by the emotion. An experience, which by its very nature is transient, becomes an identity which feels permanent and solid. This is how we get stuck. This is how a passing mood solidifies into a chronic state of being. The leaf, in its simple wisdom, offers a third way. It knows it cannot stop the rain from falling, but it also knows it does not have to be defined by it. Watch what it does. With a slight tremor, a gentle shudder of its whole being, it shifts its angle. The collected water beads up, loses its purchase, and rolls off the edge, falling away into the air below. The leaf is instantly lighter. Its dance, though momentarily interrupted, can now resume. It has skillfully processed the burden without denying its existence and without drowning in its weight. This gentle shake is a beautiful metaphor for the mindful, compassionate processing of our own emotions. It is a skill we can all learn. It begins with acknowledging the raindrop. The first step is to simply notice that it has started to rain inside. Instead of instinctively running for cover, we pause. We turn our attention inward and say, "Ah, this is anger," or "This is what anxiety feels like." We are not judging it or trying to fix it. We are simply recognizing its presence with gentle curiosity. The next step is to allow the feeling to be there, just for a moment. This is the most counterintuitive part. Our every instinct screams at us to push the uncomfortable feeling away, but instead, we create a space for it. We let the raindrop rest on our surface without collapsing under it. We allow ourselves to feel the coolness of sadness or the heat of anger in our body without immediately launching into the mental story of who is to blame or what it all means. From this place of acceptance, we can investigate the feeling with kindness. Where is this emotion living in my body? Is it a tightness in my throat, a hollow feeling in my chest, a buzzing energy in my hands? By shifting our focus from the abstract concept of anxiety to the direct physical sensations, we begin to see it for what it is, a temporary flow of energy, not a permanent part of ourself. This leads to the final, liberating movement, the gentle shake of non-identification. We nurture ourselves through the experience. We might place a hand on our heart, a simple gesture of self-compassion. We might say to ourselves, "It's okay. This is a difficult moment. This is part of being human." And in this space of kindness, we can see with absolute clarity, I am the leaf, not the raindrop. I am the sky, not the storm cloud. I am the awareness that is experiencing the feeling, not the feeling itself. This realization is what allows the emotion to roll off. It has been seen, it has been felt, and now it can pass. A wise teacher once taught this lesson using a simple glass of water. She held it up for her students and asked, "How heavy is this glass of water?" The students called out various guesses. 8 ounces, 12 ounces. She shook her head. "The absolute weight doesn't matter," she said. "It depends on how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute, it's quite light. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will begin to ache. If I hold it for an entire day, my arm will become cramped and feel paralyzed. In each case, the weight of the glass itself has not changed, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it feels." She paused, looking at the faces of her students. "Your worries, your anger, your sadness, your resentments," she continued, "are all like this glass of water. If you think about them for a short while, It is manageable. If you carry them around for an hour, they begin to be a burden. If you carry them with you all day, every day, you become paralyzed, incapable of focusing on anything else. The lesson is this: to find relief, you must learn to put the glass down. Shaking off the raindrop is putting the glass down. It is the compassionate release of a burden you were never meant to carry indefinitely. It is not an act of violence or rejection, but one of wisdom and self-care. Rain is essential for life. A world without it would be a barren desert. Likewise, a human life devoid of sadness, anger, or fear would be a shallow one, lacking the capacity for empathy, compassion, or the courage to fight for what is right. The goal is not to create a life without emotional rain. The goal is to learn how to not become waterlogged, how to not be so weighed down by our inner weather that we can no longer dance. By learning to feel the raindrop and then gently shake it off, the leaf frees itself to continue its journey, lightened, renewed, and ready for whatever comes next, be it more rain or the warm, welcome return of the sun. The rain has passed. The leaf, having shuddered and released the heavy drops of emotion, feels an immediate lightness. As if on cue, the sun breaks through the clouds, and its warmth bathes the leaf's surface. The remaining moisture sparkles like 1,000 tiny diamonds. This is a moment of pure relief, of simple, unadulterated pleasure. It is a moment of sunlight, but the dance of descent is long, and the forest is vast. As it continues its gentle fall, the leaf drifts under the wide, cool canopy of an ancient oak and is plunged into shadow. The sudden coolness is a shock, the vibrant world momentarily muted. It has passed from light to dark in the blink of an eye. This is the rhythm of the journey, not just for the leaf, but for us. Our lives are a constant, unavoidable interplay of sunlight and shadow. The sunlight is joy, success, love, health, and connection. The shadow is sorrow, failure, loneliness, illness, and doubt. Our modern culture, however, has taught us to be sunlight chasers. We are conditioned to believe that a good life is one of perpetual, uninterrupted brightness. We see this in the relentless pressure for positivity. We are told to look on the bright side, to think happy thoughts, to suppress any sign of darkness as if it were a personal failing. Our social media feeds become highlight reels of perfect vacations, smiling families, and career triumphs, a curated world of pure sunlight. In this world, the shadow states are not seen as natural, inevitable parts of the human experience. They are seen as problems to be solved, pathologies to be medicated, or flaws to be hidden away in shame. This creates a painful secondary suffering. We feel bad about feeling bad. We feel anxious about our anxiety. We feel like a failure for experiencing failure. We are a leaf in the shadow, frantically believing that we are supposed to be in the sun. This quest for permanent sunlight is not only doomed to fail, it is the very thing that prevents us from living a whole and meaningful life. Firstly, it is a denial of reality. Life is, by its very nature, a tapestry woven with threads of both light and dark. To expect only light is to live in a state of constant tension, forever at odds with the world as it actually is. Secondly, by fleeing the shadow, we miss out on its profound and necessary gifts. It is in the shadow of failure that we learn resilience. It is in the shadow of grief that our hearts are softened and we discover true empathy. It is in the shadow of doubt that we are forced to clarify our values and find a deeper conviction. The shadow is not an enemy, it is a teacher, and its lessons are essential for growth. Most importantly, the sunlight itself loses all meaning without the contrast of the shadow. We only know warmth because we have felt cold. We appreciate health most acutely after we have been sick. The joy of connection is never sweeter than after a period of loneliness. A world of constant, unvarying light would be a sterile, glaring desert, devoid of depth, texture, or beauty. It is the interplay between the two, the dynamic dance of opposites, that makes life rich and whole. There is a timeless story of a great king who came to understand this truth. King Solomon, at the height of his power and wisdom, called his most trusted minister Benaiah and gave him a strange and difficult task. I want you to find me a ring, the king commanded. This ring must possess a unique magic. When a happy man looks at it, he will become sad, and when a sad man looks at it, he will become happy. Benaiah was mystified, but he set out on the quest. He traveled the world, seeking out merchants of rare jewels and mystics with hidden knowledge, but no one had ever heard of such a ring. Months passed, and he found nothing. On the very last day, before he was due to report his failure to the king, he was walking in despair through the poorest market in Jerusalem. He saw an old jeweler sitting on a stool, selling simple handcrafted trinkets. With nothing to lose, Benaiah described the impossible ring he was searching for. The old jeweler smiled knowingly, as if he had been waiting for this question his whole life. He took a plain gold band and with a small engraving tool etched 3 words onto it. He handed the ring to Benaiah, who paid him gratefully and rushed back to the palace. He arrived during a great feast, celebrating a military victory. King Solomon was at the pinnacle of his joy, surrounded by wealth, praise, and laughter. "Well, Benaiah," he boomed, "have you found my ring?" Silently, Benaiah presented the simple gold band. The king took it, looked at the inscription, and his boisterous smile vanished. The laughter died in his throat. He sat on his throne, plunged into a state of deep, sober contemplation. His elation was gone, replaced by a profound humility. Years later, the kingdom was struck by a terrible famine. The king's people were starving, and his heart was heavy with despair. He felt he had failed as a ruler. In his sorrow, his eyes fell upon the ring on his finger. He read the same inscription, and the crushing weight on his chest began to lift. A sense of calm, perspective, and quiet strength flowed back into him. The inscription on the ring was simple. In the original Hebrew, it was Gam Zeya Avor in English. "This too shall pass." This is the ultimate wisdom of sunlight and shadow. For the man in the sun, drunk on his own success and happiness, it is a sobering reminder of impermanence. "Enjoy this beautiful moment fully," the ring whispers, "but hold it lightly. Do not become arrogant. This is not a permanent state. It tempers joy with humility. For the man in the shadow, lost in his grief and failure, it is a lifeline of hope. This pain feels all-consuming," the ring whispers, "but it is a passing cloud, not an eternal sky. Do not despair. It tempers suffering with perspective." The ring does not change the external reality. It changes our inner relationship to it. It teaches us to stop fighting the natural rhythm of life. It embodies the wisdom of yin and yang, the ancient symbol which shows that within the brightest white there is a seed of black, and within the deepest black there is a seed of white. They are not opposing forces at war. They are inseparable partners, each giving rise to the other in an endless, graceful dance. Learning to live with this duality is a profound spiritual practice. When you find yourself in a moment of sunlight, when a project succeeds, when you feel deep love, when your body is healthy, and strong practice gratitude. Feel the warmth on your skin, but do not try to bottle it. Share its warmth with others. Acknowledge the good fortune without allowing it to harden into pride. When the leaf of your life drifts into shadow, when you face loss, when you make a mistake, when you feel lonely or afraid, practice self-compassion. Instead of frantically trying to claw your way back into the light, can you be still for a moment? Can you rest in the cool of the shade and simply be with what is? Can you ask, with genuine curiosity, what is here for me to learn? What strength is this moment asking me to cultivate? This is not resignation. It is a wise and courageous presence. The ultimate skill is learning to find peace even in the shade, an equanimity that is not dependent on external conditions. It is the quiet contentment of the leaf as it drifts through the cool air under the oak, knowing that this, too, is a valid and necessary part of the journey. It trusts that the dance will continue and that the sun will appear again in its own time. By embracing both sunlight and shadow, we become whole. We stop living a fractured life, chasing one half of experience and fleeing the other. We learn to stand in the full spectrum of our humanity with courage and grace. As the leaf accepts the entirety of its own journey, it begins to notice that it is not the only one falling. All around it, 1,000 other leaves are drifting, each on its own unique trajectory, each passing through its own distinct patches of light and dark. This awakening to the shared journey of others is the birth of compassion, and it is the next step in our unfolding. As the leaf finds its equilibrium, embracing the rhythm of its journey through sunlight and shadow, a new awareness begins to dawn. Its focus, once narrowed to its own immediate sensations, now expands. It becomes conscious of the space around it, and in that space it perceives a breathtaking spectacle. It is not alone. All around it, in a silent, magnificent ballet, are thousands upon thousands of other leaves. Red ones, gold ones, brown ones. Some spin wildly, others drift with a slow and steady grace. Some have already landed, while others have just begun their descent. The solo journey has become a communal fall. This is a profound shift in perspective. For most of our lives, we operate under the illusion of being a single, isolated leaf. We live inside a bubble of our own thoughts, our own ambitions, our own pains. The world and the people in it are often just a backdrop for our personal drama. We feel as though a spotlight follows us, magnifying our successes and, even more so, our failures. This deep-seated feeling of being a separate, central protagonist in a world of extras is the root of our profoundest loneliness. It is an exhausting and isolating way to live. The leaf, in its widening awareness, sees through this illusion. It realizes that every single other leaf is on the exact same kind of journey. The brilliant crimson leaf that seems to dance with such confidence is also subject to the unpredictable wind. The tattered brown leaf that falls quickly and clumsily is also navigating its own path to the earth. The intimidating boss, the hurried stranger on the street, the cheerful cashier, the person whose political views we despise, each one is a falling leaf. Each one is grappling with their own impermanence, clinging to their own branches of past identity, and trying to find their way through their own private patches of sunlight and shadow. To truly see this, to see beyond the surface of others and recognize the shared vulnerable journey within, is to give birth to compassion. In the Buddhist tradition, this is known as karuna. It is not pity, which is a feeling of looking down on someone from a place of superiority. It is not even just empathy, which is the ability to feel what another is feeling. Karuna is a deeper resonance. It is the wisdom that arises from recognizing a shared condition. It is the heart's response to seeing another's struggle and thinking, not how sad for you, but rather, I know this feeling. Your journey is my journey. We are in this together. With this compassionate understanding, the poison of comparison begins to lose its power. The modern mind is addicted to comparison. We constantly measure our fall. She is more successful than I am. His family seems so much happier than mine. Look how gracefully she handles pressure, while I am so clumsy. This internal accounting is a thief of joy. It keeps us focused on other people's paths, preventing us from fully inhabiting and appreciating our own unique dance. It breeds envy, resentment, and a chronic sense of inadequacy. The falling leaf does not compare. It is too exquisitely absorbed in its own unique and unrepeatable descent. It understands instinctively that it cannot fall another's fall, and another cannot fall its. When we truly see that we are all just leaves in the same autumn wind, the compulsion to rank and measure ourselves against one another begins to feel absurd. We can genuinely celebrate another leaf's beautiful, sunlit spin without it casting a shadow on our own quiet drift. Their joy does not diminish our own. Their suffering is not a secret victory for us. We are all part of the same inevitable, beautiful, and sometimes sorrowful shower of leaves. There is a simple and ancient parable that speaks to the strength found in this shared condition. A wise old man on his deathbed called his many children to gather around him. He wanted to give them one final, lasting lesson. He handed each of them a single, slender stick. "Break it," he commanded. One by one, they snapped the sticks over their knees with ease. Then, the old man took a number of sticks equal to the number of his children, and with a piece of cord, bound them together into a tight bundle. He offered the bundle to his strongest child. "Now break this," he said. The child strained and struggled, their muscles bulging, but the bundle would not yield. He passed it to the next child, and the next. None of them could break it. Remember this, the father said, his voice weak but clear. When you stand alone, you are like a single stick, easily broken by the hardships of life. But when you stand together, supporting one another, you become a bundle. You are unbreakable. This is the wisdom of Sangha, the Sanskrit word for community. We are not meant to navigate the winds and shadows of this life alone. Recognizing our shared journey is the first step. Actively participating in it is the next. When we share our struggles with a trusted friend, we are binding the sticks together. When we listen, truly listen, to another story of their fall, we are strengthening the bundle. This support doesn't make the wind stop blowing, but it makes us far less likely to be broken by it. This sense of community extends far beyond our immediate circle. It can become a way of relating to all of humanity. We can practice it every day. When you speak with someone, practice deep listening. This means setting aside your own internal chatter, your need to reply, your judgments, and your advice. Simply listen with the sole intention of understanding what it is like to be them, to be that leaf on that particular journey. This quality of attention is one of the most profound gifts you can offer another being. You can also practice this through formal meditation, such as metta or loving kindness. In this practice, you actively cultivate a heart of compassion. You start by offering kind wishes to yourself. May I be safe, may I be happy, may I be at peace. Then you extend these wishes outward in ever-widening circles, to a loved one, to a neutral person, to a difficult person, and finally to all beings everywhere, without exception. This practice is a powerful antidote to the illusion of separation. It systematically dismantles the walls we build around our hearts and reinforces the truth of our interconnectedness. The next time you find yourself feeling impatient with a slow driver, or angry with a public figure, or dismissive of a stranger, pause, take a breath. Try to imagine that this person too is a falling leaf. You do not know the path they have traveled. You do not know the winds they are facing or the shadows they are passing through. But you know that they, like you, are on a journey. You know that they, like you, wish to be happy and to avoid suffering. This simple act of imaginative empathy can transform a moment of cold judgment into a moment of warm, silent kinship. As the leaf awakens to this vast community of fellow travelers, its loneliness dissolves. It is part of something much larger than its own small story. It is a single note in a grand cosmic symphony of falling. Seeing its shared nature with all other leaves does not diminish its own value. On the contrary, it makes its own unique existence even more wondrous. It can now look back at itself, not with the isolating ego of a separate entity, but with a new and compassionate appreciation for its own unrepeatable design. This leads us, finally, to look closely at the beautiful, intricate, and unique pattern of veins that makes this one leaf among millions exactly what it is. Having awakened to its own uniqueness within the vast community of falling leaves, a new sense of peace settles upon the leaf. Its journey is its own, its pattern of veins an unrepeatable signature in the cosmos. From this place of self-acceptance, a deeper question begins to surface. How did this pattern come to be? Where did this unique form originate? As it continues its slow, spiraling descent, its perspective shifts. It sees not just the other leaves, but the magnificent solid structure from which it came. It sees the branch, the trunk, the deep unseen roots. It remembers the tree. This is not a memory of nostalgia for a home it has left behind. It is a profound, present moment recognition of its own essence. The leaf, though now detached and flying free, carries the entire history and nature of the tree within its very cells. It is, and always will be, an expression of that tree. In our human world, we are often encouraged to forget our tree. We are raised on a powerful and pervasive myth, the myth of the self-made individual. This is the story of the rugged hero who pulls himself up by his own bootstraps, who succeeds through sheer force of will, who owes nothing to anyone. We celebrate this narrative of absolute independence, believing it to be the pinnacle of strength and achievement. But this myth, while seeming to empower us, carries a hidden and heavy cost. It breeds a deep sense of isolation. It makes asking for help feel like a profound failure. It forces us to deny our dependencies and our heritage, creating a fragile ego that must constantly pretend it is a separate island, unconnected to the vast continent of life that produced it. The leaf knows this to be an illusion. It knows it did not create itself. Its existence is a gift from the tree, and we too are a gift from our own vast and complex trees. Consider your roots. You carry the genetic and biological legacy of 1,000 generations. The color of your eyes, the shape of your hands, your innate temperament, these are echoes from an unbroken chain of ancestors, men and women who survived famines, wars, and migrations, who loved and struggled, and who successfully passed the torch of life down through the ages until it reached you. To forget them is to forget the deep, anchoring roots of your own being. Consider the trunk of your tree, your parents and your upbringing, the very language you think in your first understanding of the world. Your core concepts of safety and love, these were grafted onto you from your earliest moments. Whether your childhood was a sun-drenched field or a shadowed wood, it formed the foundational structure of who you are today. The trunk is the undeniable starting point of your personal history. And what of the branches? These are the teachers who sparked your curiosity, the authors whose books opened new worlds, the friends whose laughter shaped your heart, the culture whose stories, music, and art have colored your imagination. None of us learns in a vacuum. We are all standing on the shoulders of giants, reaching for the sky from branches that grew long before we did. Finally, the sap that gives life to the entire structure is the earth itself. The food that builds your cells, the water that flows in your blood, the very air that fills your lungs with each breath you are literally composed of the planet. You are not a visitor living on the earth. You are the earth, temporarily awakened into this specific conscious form. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught this lesson with a simple sheet of paper. He would hold it up and ask his students what they saw. A sheet of paper, they would reply. I see it differently, he would say with a gentle smile. I see a cloud floating high in the sky. Without a cloud, there can be no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow. And without trees, we cannot make paper. So the cloud is in here. Then I see the logger, he would continue, who cut down the tree and carried it to the mill. I see the wheat that became his bread for lunch. I see the sun that was necessary to grow the wheat. The sun is in this sheet of paper. And if I look even more deeply, I see his parents and her parents and the whole cosmos in this thin sheet of paper. I cannot find a single thing that is not in here time, space, the soil, the people. This sheet of paper cannot be by itself. It can only interbe with everything else. This is the profound truth of our own existence. If we look deeply into ourselves, we see that our me-ness is empty of any separate, independent self. We inter-are with our ancestors, our parents, our food, our language, and the planet. The idea of a self-made person is a beautiful fiction, a logical impossibility. We are all tree-made, culture-made, earth-made. The natural emotional response to this deep seeing is gratitude. Gratitude is the practice of remembering the tree. It is a fundamental shift away from the ego's sense of entitlement. The self-made myth whispers, I earned this. I deserve this. The wisdom of the tree whispers, I have received this. This is a gift. This shift changes everything. It softens the heart and dissolves the isolating walls of the ego. You can practice this gratitude in the simplest moments of your day. Before you eat a meal, pause. Consider the sunlight, the soil, the rain, the farmer, the driver, the grocer, the entire universe of causes and conditions that had to converge perfectly to bring that food to your plate. When you appreciate a skill you possess, take a moment to trace it back. Remember the teacher who first showed you the way, the people who encouraged you, the countless hours of practice that were supported by the world around you. Sometimes, simply reflect on the astronomical odds you overcame just to be born, the unbroken chain of life stretching back through millennia, culminating in the miracle of you, here, now. Remembering the tree does not erase our individuality. It gives it a context, a meaning, a home. The leaf understands that its unique veins are not a product of its own isolated will, but a beautiful and intricate expression of the life force that flowed into it from the tree. This realization brings with it a profound sense of belonging. Though it is falling, it is not lost. Though it is separate, it is not alone. It carries its source within it. This deep feeling of connection to its origin provides an unshakable stability, even while it is adrift on the winds of change. The fear of being a solitary, abandoned thing in a meaningless void dissolves. Having understood its profound connection to its own source, the leaf's awareness is now prepared for one final, expansive step. It is ready to see that the tree itself does not stand alone, but is woven into the fabric of a much larger entity, the entire forest. This is the journey into the heart of universal interconnectedness. Having remembered the tree and acknowledged its source, the leaf's awareness expands once more. It looks beyond its own tree, beyond the familiar branches of its origin, and sees the forest for the first time. It is not a mere collection of individual trees, but a single, vast, living entity. It is an ocean of life, and each tree is a wave, and each leaf is a drop of sea spray on that wave. The forest breathes, and the leaf realizes, in a moment of profound insight, that it has always been a part of that breath. Modern science has recently uncovered a truth that mystics have known for centuries. Beneath the forest floor lies a complex, pulsing network of fungal threads, a wood-wide web that connects the roots of individual trees, allowing them to communicate and share resources. Through this hidden network, a strong, sun-rich tree can send vital carbon to a smaller sapling struggling in the shade. Trees can warn their neighbors of insect attacks by releasing chemical signals through this subterranean web. The forest is not a competition of lonely individuals. It is a cooperative, a single intelligent system. The health of one is inextricably linked to the health of all. This hidden network exists in our human world too. We are all connected by invisible threads of cause and effect. Every action we take, no matter how small or private it may seem, sends ripples out into the world. The kind, patient word you offer to a stressed cashier may soften their state of mind, which in turn allows them to be kinder to the next 100 customers they serve that day. A single cynical comment posted online contributes to a collective atmosphere of distrust and negativity. The food we choose to buy, the clothes we wear, the energy we consume, every choice is a vote cast, a thread pulled, which affects a vast web of other beings across the planet. We are constantly and inescapably co-creating our collective reality. Even our thoughts are not truly private. A mind cultivated in anger and resentment radiates a subtle tension that affects our families and workplaces. A mind cultivated in peace and compassion brings a tangible sense of calm to any room it enters. We are all breathing the same psychological air. We are all contributing to the weather. In the rich imagery of Mahayana Buddhism, this reality is described as Indra's net. Imagine a vast celestial net that stretches out infinitely in all directions. At every single intersection of the net's threads, there hangs a perfect, multifaceted jewel. The net is structured in such a way that if you look closely at the polished surface of any one jewel, you will see reflected within it every other jewel in the entire infinite net. And if you look even more closely at any of those reflections, you will see that they too contain the reflection of all the other jewels, sending the pattern onward into infinity. Each jewel is a metaphor for a single being, a single consciousness, a single moment. Its very existence is defined by its relationship to all the others. It has no independent identity. It is a reflection of the whole. To touch one jewel, to cause it to shimmer, is to send a tremor through the entire web. The whole net is present in every part, and every part is present in the whole. This is the doorway to one of the most profound and liberating teachings of the Buddha, the doctrine of anatta, or no, self. This teaching does not claim that we do not exist. It claims that we do not exist as a separate, solid, permanent entity. Like Indra's jewel, our self is not a little mannequin sitting inside our head, pulling levers. The self is a confluence, a process, a reflection of the entire universe. Your consciousness is a reflection of the language you were taught, the culture you absorbed, the experiences you've had. Your body is a reflection of the sun, the water, and the countless plants and animals that have become your cells. If you truly look for a separate, independent you that exists apart from all this, you will not find one. We are, like the sheet of paper, empty of a separate self, but we are completely full of everything else. We are full of our parents, our ancestors, the earth, the sun, and the entire history of the cosmos. Why is this insight so liberating? Because the separate self, the ego, is the root of our suffering. It is the I that feels wounded by criticism. It is the I that is terrified of annihilation. It is the I that feels lonely and disconnected. It is the I that craves pleasure, power, and possessions in a desperate attempt to feel more solid and real. It is the I that is constantly comparing itself to others, feeling either superior or inferior. When we begin to see through this illusion of the separate self, the very root of our anxiety and craving begins to wither away. The need to defend and aggrandize a fictional entity lessens. We can finally relax. This does not lead to a life of apathy or irresponsibility. On the contrary, it leads to a state of profound ethical clarity. If we are all truly interconnected, if we are all jewels in the same net, then the distinction between self and other dissolves. Harming another being is understood, not just intellectually, but in a visceral way, as harming ourselves. An act of cruelty is a pollution of the entire net. An act of greed depletes the resources of the whole. Conversely, every act of kindness becomes a gift to ourself. Every act of generosity enriches the whole system. Our motivation for action begins to shift from the narrow, fearful question of, what is in it for me, to the vast, compassionate inquiry of what is best for the whole. This is the birth of true responsibility. It is an ethical life that arises organically from a clear perception of reality, not from a fear of punishment or a hope for reward. The leaf, in the final moments of its journey, understands this. It sees that its life was never just its own. Its act of photosynthesis was its contribution to the forest breath. Its changing color was its part in the beauty of the season. And its final act of falling and decomposing is its gift back to the soil, a nourishment for the roots of the very system that created it. It is a single, perfect jewel, and its brief, beautiful existence sends a shimmer across the entire net of being. This ultimate realization of its place in the universe has a profound effect on its inner state. The constant, chattering noise of the separate self, with all its needs, its fears, its comparisons, and its ambitions, begins to fade. The struggle to be something more, something better, something different, ceases. In seeing its absolute connection to everything, the leaf discovers a great and profound stillness within. It finds silence, and it is this sacred silence, the space between the thoughts, that we will explore next. As the leaf's awareness expands to embrace the entire forest, a profound internal shift occurs. The frantic, ego-driven monologue that once dominated its consciousness begins to quiet down. The questions of, am I good enough? Or am I falling correctly? Fade into irrelevance. Having seen its connection to everything, the need to be a separate, important self dissolves. The leaf simply is. It continues its descent, but now it is more attuned to the subtle rhythms of its journey. It feels the rush of a strong gust of wind, the familiar force that pushes and pulls it. But it also begins to notice something else, something it had previously overlooked, the moments of deep, profound stillness between the gusts. This silence is not an absence of something, it is a presence. It is the rich, fertile emptiness in which the next movement is born. This inner silence stands in stark contrast to the normal state of the human mind. Our minds are, for the most part, incredibly noisy places. There is a constant inner narrator who never seems to stop talking, providing a running commentary on every experience. It endlessly replays conversations from the past, rehearses anxieties about the future, and delivers a steady stream of judgments about ourselves and others. This internal chatter is stirred into a constant agitation by powerful winds of thought. There is the wind of planning, worrying, and list-making. There is the wind of regret, replaying old mistakes and grievances. There is the wind of desire, which tells us we are incomplete without some future acquisition or experience. And there is the wind of aversion, which pushes away everything we dislike. On top of this internal whirlwind, we layer an unprecedented amount of external noise. The buzzes, pings, and rings of our devices, the 24-hour news cycle, the endless scroll of social media, the constant soundtrack of traffic, advertisements, and background music. We have become a culture that is terrified of silence. We treat it like a vacuum that must be filled at all costs. The moment we find ourselves with a few seconds of quiet, we instinctively reach for our phones to fill the space. This fear of silence makes the practice of meditation seem daunting. There's a great misconception that the goal of meditation is to empty the mind or to stop thinking. A person sits down, closes their eyes, and for the first time truly pays attention to their own mind. What they discover is not a serene sanctuary, but a full-blown hurricane of thoughts. Believing the goal is to stop this hurricane, they try to fight it, to suppress the thoughts, to force the mind into silence. This is like trying to shout down the wind. It is an impossible, exhausting battle that inevitably ends in frustration, with the person concluding, "I'm no good at this. My mind is just too busy." But the true aim of meditation is not to stop the wind of thought. It is to change our relationship to it. It is to find the quiet spaces between the gusts. It is to learn how to let the thoughts come and go without being carried away by them. Imagine a beautiful lake. On a windy day, its surface is choppy and agitated. But one morning, you arrive to find the water is completely brown and murky. The mud from the bottom has been stirred up, and you can't see into the depths at all. You certainly can't see your reflection. This is the mind lost in its own turmoil. Now, what is the one and only way to make the water clear again? You cannot jump in and try to force the mud to the bottom. Your thrashing would only make it worse. The only thing you can do is sit patiently on the shore and let the lake be. You simply wait. As you sit in stillness, the natural law of gravity begins to do its work. The heaviest particles of muter, most obsessive, painful thoughts and emotions start to settle. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the water begins to clear. The process is gentle, effortless. You are not doing it. You are simply allowing it to happen. Eventually, all the mud settles on the bottom, and the water becomes crystal clear. Now, you can see all the way to the stones on the lake bed. You can see the fish swimming freely, and on the perfectly still surface, you can see a flawless reflection of your own face and the vast open sky above. This is the promise of meditation. We are not the mud, we are the lake. Our essential nature is not the frantic, cloudy thinking, but the clear, open, aware consciousness that lies beneath it. Our thoughts and emotions are simply transient weather patterns that stir up the mud. The practice is to learn how to sit still and let the sediment of our minds settle naturally. We do this in formal practice by choosing an anchor for our attention, most often the physical sensation of the breath. We sit and we feel the simple reality of the in-breath and the out-breath. Inevitably, a gust of wind of thought about work, a memory, a plan will arise and carry our attention away. The moment we notice we have been carried away is a moment of mindfulness. There is no need for self-criticism. We simply, gently, and without judgment, guide our awareness back to the anchor of the breath. Each time we do this, we are choosing not to stir the lake. We are letting the mud settle. With practice, we begin to notice the gaps, the tiny pause at the very top of the inhalation, and the slightly longer pause at the bottom of the exhaled breath. We notice the fleeting space between one thought dissolving and the next one arising. These are the moments of silence between the gusts. At first, they are very brief, but as we continue to practice, they can widen into a profound sense of inner space and peace. This is our natural state. This silence is not an empty, dead void. It is a vibrant, living stillness. It is the deep quiet of the forest, which is not empty, but is teeming with unseen life. It is the canvas upon which all the sights and sounds of the world can appear without disturbance. It is the space in which true wisdom, creativity, and insight can arise. The solutions to our problems often appear not when we are frantically thinking about them, but when we have let go and allowed the mind to become still. The leaf, resting in this silent awareness as it falls, has found an inner sanctuary. It is no longer buffeted and controlled by every passing gust of wind or thought. It has found a center of gravity in its own quiet presence. It has accepted the external world. It has accepted its own nature. It has connected with its source and with all other beings. And now, it has discovered the unshakable peace of inner silence. Endowed with this deep, quiet strength, it is finally prepared to face the ultimate challenge of its journey, the most fundamental fear of all existence, the moment of landing. From the deep, silent space between the gusts of thought, the leaf continues its descent. It is calm, present, aware, and from this place of stillness, it can now look at the ground below without panic. It is no longer a terrifying, abstract concept, but a simple, approaching reality. The end of the dance is near. This is the landing. In our human lives, the landing takes many forms, but our reaction is almost always the same. We look away. We are a culture built on the denial of endings. Death, the great and final landing, is the ultimate taboo. It is a sanitized event that happens behind the closed doors of hospitals, spoken of only in hushed tones and gentle euphemisms. We say people have passed away, or that we have lost them, as if they have merely misplaced themselves on a journey. Our rituals are often designed to distract from the raw, stark finality of it all, to quickly paper over the abyss of loss with memories and celebrations. This aversion extends to all the smaller landings we face in life. We celebrate beginnings with great fanfare bursts, graduations, weddings, the start of a new job, but we have few rituals for endings. A divorce, a bankruptcy, the loss of a career, the end of a friendship, these are treated not as natural parts of a life cycle, but as failures, shameful disruptions to the narrative of perpetual progress we believe we ought to be living. This frantic avoidance does not eliminate our fear, it feeds it. By pushing the thought of endings into the shadows of our consciousness, we allow it to grow into a monstrous, unnamed dread. This unspoken fear of the ultimate landing becomes the hidden engine driving our most anxious behaviors. It is why we cling so desperately to our youth, why we accumulate possessions far beyond our needs, and why we fight so hard to control every aspect of our lives. The deep, unacknowledged fear of death is what makes us so afraid to truly and authentically live. The leaf's landing is a metaphor for all these deaths, large and small. The loss of a job is the death of our identity as a provider or a successful professional. The end of a major relationship is the death of our identity as a partner or spouse. A serious illness is the death of our identity as a healthy, able-bodied person. In each case, a version of ourselves must die, and we resist these small landings with the same primal terror with which we resist the great one. The Buddhist tradition offers a radically different approach. It teaches us to turn around and gently, courageously look the tiger of death in the eye. It encourages the practice of Maranasati, the mindfulness of death. This is not a morbid obsession with dying. It is a powerful practice for living more wisely and fully. The practice is to calmly and regularly bring to mind a simple, undeniable truth. My body is of a nature to die. My death is certain. The time of my death is uncertain. To hold this reality in your awareness is not depressing. It is clarifying. Firstly, it creates a sense of urgency and helps you prioritize what is truly important. When you are deeply aware that your time is finite, you become far less willing to waste it on petty squabbles, meaningless distractions, or a career that drains your soul. The question ceases to be, what do I have to do? And becomes, with my one precious life, what do I truly wish to do? Secondly, it cultivates profound gratitude. The knowledge that this day, this breath, this conversation could be your last makes everything more precious. You stop taking the simple gifts of life for granted. The taste of water, the warmth of the sun, the presence of a loved one, these all become miracles. Finally, and perhaps most powerfully, when you dare to face the greatest fear of all, the fear of your own non-existence, all, the smaller fears that dominate your daily life begin to shrink in comparison. The fear of public speaking, the fear of asking for what you want, the fear of being rejected, these anxieties seem almost trivial when held up against the great backdrop of mortality. Facing the big landing gives you the courage to risk the smaller one. There is a story of Alexander the Great that illustrates the wisdom gained from contemplating the end. After conquering kingdoms and amassing more wealth and power than any man of his time, Alexander lay dying. He understood in that moment that all his armies, his gold, and his glory were utterly meaningless. He called his generals and gave them 3 final commands for his funeral. First, he said, "My physicians alone must carry my coffin." He wanted to show the world that even the most skilled doctors have no power over death. Second, the path leading to my tomb must be strewn with the gold, silver, and precious stones from my royal treasury. He wanted to show that the material wealth we accumulate on earth, we leave on earth. My third and final wish, he commanded, is that both of my hands be left dangling outside of my coffin for all to see. When an astonished general asked why, Alexander replied, "I want the world to see that I came into this world empty-handed, and I leave this world empty-handed." This is the ultimate teaching that the landing provides. It is the great equalizer, the final unburdening. All that we have grasped and clung to possessions, status, reputation, even our own bodies must be released. Contemplating this truth before we are on our deathbed allows us to live with open hands. It shifts our life's focus from a frantic effort of accumulating to a gentle practice of experiencing and sharing. It moves us from a life of having to a life of being. We can practice facing the landing in gentle, healthy ways. It can be as simple as beginning your day with a quiet reflection. If I knew this were my last day, how would I act? Who would I contact? What forgiveness would I offer, to myself or to another? What small beauty would I be sure to notice? This isn't a threat, but an invitation to live with intention. You can also practice by acknowledging the small deaths that happen every day. The end of a meal, the end of a phone call, the sun setting. Instead of immediately rushing to the next activity, take one conscious breath to honor the completion of that moment. This trains the mind to become comfortable with the rhythm of arising and passing away, which is the rhythm of all life. By daring to look at the ground, by facing the certainty of its own landing, the leaf robs the end of its power to terrorize. The fear, when met with the quiet courage born of inner stillness, transforms from a shadowy monster into a wise teacher. This teacher's message is simple: live fully, love deeply, hold lightly. Having confronted the fact of the landing, the leaf is no longer consumed by it. It is free to focus on the quality of its final approach. The question is no longer if it will land, but how it will meet the ground. Will it be with frantic, fearful resistance, or with a calm and graceful acceptance? This brings us to the profound wisdom of surrender. Having looked unflinchingly at the ground below, the leaf has made peace with the fact of its landing. The fear of the end has been met with the quiet courage of presence. Now, a new question arises. A question not of if, but of how. How does it meet this final destination? Does it plummet like a stone, rigid with fear? Or does it arrive with the same grace that has characterized its entire dance? The answer lies in one of the most misunderstood and powerful words in any spiritual vocabulary: surrender. In our modern, goal-oriented culture, surrender is a dirty word. It conjures images of defeat, of waving a white flag, of giving up in a fight. It implies weakness, passivity, and a loss of control. We are taught from a young age to strive, to resist, to overcome obstacles through sheer force of will. To surrender is to be a loser. But in the deep wisdom of the natural world, and in the heart of Zen practice, surrender means something entirely different. It is not an act of weakness, but one of profound strength and intelligence. It is not about giving up, but about giving up the struggle. It is the courageous cessation of our futile war against reality. The leaf is the perfect embodiment of this wise surrender. It surrenders completely to the law of gravity. It does not waste an ounce of its energy trying to flap its way back up to the branch. Such an effort would be absurd, exhausting, and utterly pointless. It recognizes gravity not as an enemy to be fought, but as a fundamental law of its existence, the very force that makes its final journey possible. It also surrenders to the changing currents of the wind, allowing itself to be carried and guided, trusting in the flow. The leaf's profound peace, the quiet dignity of its fall, comes directly from the state of complete non-resistance. Its grace is a function of its surrender. We, on the other hand, spend the majority of our lives resisting gravity, not the physical law, but the metaphorical gravity of our lives. The pull of aging, the reality of a difficult diagnosis, the undeniable fact of a relationship ending, the unchangeable truths of our past. We exhaust ourselves in a constant internal war against what is. This resistance, this internal friction between our desires and the way things are, is the primary source of our anxiety and suffering. The wisdom of surrender offers us a peace treaty in this self-imposed war. Imagine a person in a small rowboat on a wide, powerful river. The river has a strong, clear current flowing steadily downstream. But the person in the boat is determined to go upstream. They are convinced that their destination lies behind them. So they row. They pull on the oars with all their might, their muscles straining, sweat pouring down their face. They fight the current with heroic effort, and yet for all their struggle, the boat barely moves. On some days, they might make a few feet of progress. On other days, when the current is stronger, they are actually pushed further downstream despite their frantic rowing. This is the life of resistance. It is noble in its effort, but it is also exhausting, inefficient, and ultimately at odds with the fundamental nature of the river. Now, imagine that after days of this futile struggle, the person collapses in the boat, utterly spent. The oars slip from their blistered hands and fall into the water. They have given up. In that moment of releasing the struggle, something miraculous occurs. The boat, no longer fighting the river, gently turns and begins to move with the current, effortlessly, gracefully. The person is now traveling faster than they ever did while rowing, but with no effort at all. They have surrendered not to defeat, but to the immense power and intelligence of the river itself. This does not mean they have become helplessly passive. Now that they are no longer wasting all their energy on rowing, they are free to do something much more subtle and effective. They can pick up a small paddle and use it as a rudder. With gentle, skillful touches, they can steer the boat, navigating around a dangerous rock here, guiding it toward a beautiful, sunlit cove there. They are still an active participant in the journey, but they are working with the river, not against it. This is the essence of wise surrender. The river is the great, uncontrollable flow of life, time, and reality. The frantic upstream rowing is the ego's will, trying to force its own agenda onto the world. Dropping the oars is the act of surrender. It is the moment we stop fighting the current. The rudder is our conscious awareness, our intention, which we can now use with skill and precision because we are not consumed by the struggle. This kind of surrender requires a deep and courageous trust. It is the trust that the river of life has its own wisdom, a wisdom that is often far greater than our own limited, fearful plans. It is the trust that even if the river is carrying us to a place we did not intend to go, there will be value, lessons, and even beauty to be found there. We can practice this in our daily lives. The first step is to simply notice where we are rowing upstream. Where in your life are you locked in a struggle with reality? Are you fighting the fact that your body is changing? Are you resisting a necessary change in your career? Are you refusing to accept a person for who they truly are? Just notice the feeling of resistance. It almost always manifests as physical tension, a clenched jaw, tight shoulders, a knot in the stomach, shallow breathing. The practice of surrender can be as simple as consciously dropping the oars in your own body. Take a deep breath, and on the long, slow out-breath, intentionally soften the muscles in your shoulders. Unclench your hands, let your belly be soft. This physical act of letting go is a powerful signal to your entire nervous system that it is safe to stop fighting. Then, you can ask a gentle question: what would it feel like to stop struggling against this just for the next 10 minutes? What if I were to trust the flow of this situation just for today? This is not about giving up on what you care about. It is about releasing the anxious, combative energy with which you have been pursuing it. It is about learning to use the rudder instead of the oars. The wisdom of surrender is the discovery that our greatest power lies not in our force, but in our ability to align ourselves with a force far greater than we are. Our deepest peace is found not in winning a war against reality, but in the moment we finally lay down our arms and allow ourselves to be carried by the current. The leaf, surrendering to the pull of the earth, does not crash. It arrives, and its arrival is not the brittle impact of a stone, but the gentle, yielding touch of a being that has mastered the art of letting go. This quality of softness, this strength found in yielding, is the next great secret of its journey. Having surrendered to the great, inevitable flow of its journey, the leaf now reveals the very quality that makes this surrender possible: its softness. Watch it as it falls. It is not a rigid, flat plank, fighting the air and being knocked about violently. It is pliable, supple, and alive to the currents. It folds, it bends, it cups the wind, yielding to the pressure here, gliding on the lift there. Its softness is not a weakness. It is the very source of its acrobatic grace. A dead, brittle twig from the same tree falls without ceremony, a clumsy stone dropping through the air. The leaf, because of its softness, dances. Our culture often makes the same mistake as the twig. It confuses rigidity with strength. We are taught to admire the person with unshakable opinions, the leader with an iron will, the debater who never concedes a point. We build identities around the hardness of our convictions, our political beliefs, our intellectual positions, our personal philosophies. To be uncertain, to change one's mind, to say "I don't know," is often seen as a sign of weakness. We are encouraged to develop grit, which we frequently interpret as a stubborn, unyielding capacity to smash through obstacles with brute force. We mistake the quality of stone for the quality of power. The result is that we cultivate minds that are brittle. A mind that is rigid with rules, expectations, and fixed beliefs is a mind that is easily broken. When reality inevitably presents a situation that does not conform to our rigid plan, our mind shatters into anxiety, anger, and despair. A relationship doesn't go the way we expected, and we are broken. A career path takes an unexpected turn, and we are broken. We receive criticism that contradicts our self-image, and we are broken. There is a timeless parable in the image of a great storm. The mighty oak tree, which stands for centuries, appearing to be the very symbol of strength, with its thick trunk and unyielding branches, is the one that cracks and splinters in a hurricane. Its rigidity is its downfall. Meanwhile, the slender reed growing by the riverbank, which appears fragile and weak, survives without harm. Why? Because the reed does not fight the wind. It bows down to the ground, offering no resistance. It is the epitome of softness and flexibility. When the storm has passed, it simply stands up again. The leaf is like the reed. Its strength lies in its ability to yield. The ancient wisdom of Taoism speaks of this power through the metaphor of water. Water is, by its nature, formless, soft, and yielding. It takes the shape of whatever vessel holds it. It does not argue with a rock in its path. It simply flows around it. It appears to be the most passive and weak of all substances, and yet its power is immense and undeniable. Over eons, the gentle, persistent flow of a river can carve vast canyons through mountains of solid granite. In the form of steam, it can move colossal engines. In the form of ice, its slow expansion can split boulders. As the Tao Te Ching says, the softest thing in the universe overcomes the hardest thing in the universe. This is the great secret of enduring strength. To be like water is to cultivate a mind that is fluid and adaptable. When you encounter an obstinately difficult colleague, a challenging project, a personal setback, The rigid, stone-like mind tries to smash through it with force and frustration. The fluid, water-like mind pauses, feels the shape of the obstacle, and flows around it, seeking the path of least resistance, conserving its energy, and ultimately reaching its destination with far greater ease. The power of water is not in its force, but in its persistence. The same is true for us. A soft, compassionate, and persistent approach in a human relationship can, over time, erode walls of defensiveness and anger that aggressive confrontation would only fortify. How then do we practice becoming more like water and less like stone? The first step is to cultivate what Zen Buddhism calls shoshin, or beginner's mind. This is the practice of approaching situations as if for the first time, with a sense of curiosity and openness, free from the arrogance of preconceived notions. A beginner's mind is not empty. It is open. It is the willingness to say, I might be wrong about this, or tell me more. I want to understand your perspective. When you are in a disagreement, can you try listening not to find flaws in the other's argument, but with the genuine intention of discovering a truth you may have missed? This is the softness of a mind that is still capable of learning. The second practice is to soften the body. The mind and body are a single system. A tense, rigid body holds a tense, rigid mind. Notice the areas where you hold tension: the jaw, the neck, the shoulders, the stomach. Throughout the day, take moments to intentionally release this tension. Consciously unclench your hands. Allow your belly to be soft. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Practices like yoga or Tai Chi are profound disciplines in cultivating this unity of a soft body and a soft mind. As you learn to move with physical fluidity and grace, you are training your mind to do the same. Finally, we can practice the power of the soft answer. When we are met with the hardness of another's anger, criticism, or aggression, our instinct is to harden in return. We become defensive, we raise our voice, we meet force with force. This is like throwing wood on a fire. The water-like approach is to meet that hardness with softness. This doesn't mean being a doormat. It means meeting their attack with the disarming softness of quiet listening and genuine validation. A simple, I hear how frustrated you are, or it sounds like this has been very difficult for you, can de-escalate a conflict in a way that fighting back never could. It absorbs the force of the attack rather than reflecting it back. It is pouring water on the fire. The falling leaf, in its final, silent moments, is a master of this principle. It does not present a hard, flat edge to the world. It yields. It flows. It cooperates with the forces around it. Its softness is its strength. It is this profound quality of pliancy that has allowed it to surrender so completely to its journey. And this surrender is not just to the external forces of wind and gravity, but also to the internal forces of its own transformation. It is this softness that allows the leaf to undergo its final, glorious change. The blossoming of its autumn colors, a testament to a life lived in beautiful, yielding alignment with the truth of what is. This acceptance of its own changing nature is the next great lesson on its path to the ground. The leaf, in its soft, yielding surrender, allows for its most profound transformation to become visible. As it drifts and dances, a change that began subtly on the branch now accelerates into a magnificent, final flourish. The deep, uniform green of its youth, the color of striving, of taking in sunlight, of active growth begins to recede. But as the green fades, it does not reveal a void or a decay. Instead, it unveils the spectacular colors that were hidden within it all along. The brilliant, fiery reds, the warm, gentle golds, the deep and vibrant oranges. This is not the leaf's death. This is its revelation. It is offering its truest, most complex, and most beautiful self to the world. In our human culture, we have become deeply afraid of this change of colors. We live in a cult of green. We worship the energy, the smooth potential, and the vibrant productivity of youth. We view life as a linear climb to a peak, sometime in our 30s, followed by a long, slow, and regrettable decline. The language we use to describe aging is one of loss and failure. We are going downhill, we are over the hill, we are losing our looks, our strength, our relevance. We see the natural transformations of time, the silvering of hair, the lines etched upon a face, the slowing of the body, not as evidence of a life fully lived, but as a kind of disease, a shameful deterioration to be fought, hidden, and denied at all costs. This fear fuels a vast and anxious industry. We dye away the silver, inject away the lines, and desperately push our bodies to perform as they did decades earlier, often resulting in injury and exhaustion. We are like a forest that has come to despise autumn, desperately trying to paint all its leaves green in a futile attempt to create a world of perpetual, unchanging summer. We fight a war against time, a war we are guaranteed to lose, and in doing so, we rob ourselves of the unique beauty and wisdom that each season of life has to offer. The leaf invites us to see differently. Each of its colors has its own purpose and its own splendor. The green of its spring and summer is the color of potential and vigorous growth. Its beauty lies in its promise and its vital connection to the tree, its work of gathering sunlight for the whole. As autumn approaches, the green gives way to gold. This is the color of maturity, of the harvest. It is a warm, mellow, and radiant hue, the color of a life that has weathered a few storms and has a deep, quiet strength to show for it. Its beauty is in its richness, its fullness, its sun-soaked wisdom. Then come the fiery reds and oranges. This is often the most spectacular and breathtaking display. It is a bold, unapologetic burst of color, a final, passionate expression. This can be seen as the stage of late adulthood and elderhood, a time for the release of distilled wisdom. Pretense falls away. A lifetime of experience culminates in a blaze of authentic character and truth. Finally, as the leaf settles, its colors deepen into the quiet dignity of brown. This is not the color of failure, but of completion. It is the color of the rich soil, of rest, and of peaceful integration. Its beauty lies in its earthiness, its contentment, and its readiness to contribute to what comes next. In Japan, there is an ancient art form called kintsugi, which means golden joinery. It offers a powerful metaphor for embracing the beauty of a life that has been lived. When a cherished piece of pottery is dropped and shatters, our first impulse is to see it as ruined. We might try to glue it back together with the hope of hiding the cracks, or more likely, we would throw it away. A kintsugi master, however, does the opposite. They take the broken shards and painstakingly reassemble them. But instead of using invisible glue, they use a special lacquer mixed with glittering, powdered gold. The finished piece does not hide its history of trauma. It celebrates it. The cracks are not flaws. They are now the most beautiful feature of the object, a network of golden rivers that tell the story of its journey. The bowl is considered more beautiful, more valuable, and more resilient because it was broken and lovingly repaired. We are all like that ceramic bowl. Over the course of a lifetime, we all get dropped. We are broken by loss, by failure, by illness, by heartbreak. Our culture teaches us to be ashamed of these cracks, to hide them away, but the wisdom of kintsugi invites us to see them as the source of our unique beauty and strength. The lines on our face are the golden seams of a million smiles and tears. The scars on our bodies are testament to our survival. The griefs that have cracked our hearts open have also expanded our capacity for love and compassion. These are not flaws. They are the glittering evidence of a life fully embraced. The gold we use to mend ourselves is the wisdom, resilience, and empathy we gain from the breaking. To hide our cracks is to deny our greatest beauty and our deepest strength. We can practice this acceptance in our own lives. We can start by changing the language we use to describe our own journey. When you look in the mirror, instead of searching for flaws with a critical eye, try to look with the kindness of a kintsugi artist. See the lines around your eyes, not as wrinkles, but as the map of your laughter. See the silver in your hair, not as a sign of decay, but as a crown of wisdom. Offer a moment of gratitude for having lived long enough to earn these beautiful repairs. We can also practice by consciously valuing the later stages of life in our culture. We so often make the elderly invisible. Make an effort to listen to their stories. See the beauty in their reds and browns. Appreciate their intricate network of golden seams. In doing so, we not only honor them, but we also reframe our own future, seeing it not as a fearsome decline, but as a journey toward our own most authentic and brilliant colors. The leaf, in its final magnificent display, is not fading away. It is reaching its peak. It is offering its most honest and beautiful self to the world. And this offering is not an act of vanity. It is a preparation for its final and most generous act of existence. As its colors deepen and its dance slows, it prepares to give the entirety of what it has learned, what it has become, back to the earth that sustained it. This ultimate act of giving is the next great lesson on its path to the ground. Having revealed its glorious autumn colors, the leaf has reached the zenith of its individual expression. It hangs in the air, a fleeting masterpiece of gold and scarlet. But its journey is not about reaching this peak and holding on to it forever. Its beauty is not for its own sake. It is a prelude to its final, most profound act, the act of giving back. The entire life of the leaf has been a cycle of generosity. In its green and vibrant youth, it was not merely growing for itself. It was engaged in the quiet, miraculous alchemy of photosynthesis, transforming raw sunlight into life-giving energy, not just for its own survival, but for the nourishment of the entire tree. It was a lung for the forest, breathing in what was needed and breathing out the very air that sustains other forms of life. Its existence was an act of service. Now, at the end of its journey, as it drifts toward the earth, it prepares for its second great act of giving. It will not be preserved in a book or framed under glass. Its purpose is to return to its source. It will offer its own body, this beautiful creation of sun, water, and air to the soil, to be broken down, to become humus, to feed the intricate web of roots and fungi, and to provide the building blocks for the new leaves that will be born next spring. Its life is a perfect circle of receiving and offering. This natural, effortless generosity stands in stark contrast to the dominant ethos of our human culture, which is one of accumulation. We are taught from a young age that the goal of life is to get more, a bigger house, a more prestigious title, a larger bank account, a greater number of followers. We are conditioned to believe that happiness, security, and success are directly proportional to how much we can gather and hoard for ourselves. This mindset is rooted in a deep fear of scarcity of belief that there isn't enough to go around, so we must compete and cling tightly to what is ours. But this pursuit of more is a paradoxical trap. Instead of bringing freedom and peace, it often brings a heavier burden. More possessions become more things to worry about, to maintain, to ensure, and ultimately, to lose. A life dedicated to accumulation becomes a life of low-grade, constant anxiety, the fear of not having enough, and the fear of losing what we have. It is a heavy, joyless way to live. The wisdom of the leaf and the wisdom of many spiritual traditions offers a different path, the path of dana, a Sanskrit and Pali word that translates to generosity, giving, and contribution. In Buddhism, dana is not just a casual good deed. It is considered the most fundamental spiritual practice, the very first of the paramitas, or perfections of the heart. It is the direct and powerful antidote to the poison of craving, clinging, and greed, which are seen as the roots of our suffering. Every single act of giving, no matter how small, is a practice of non-attachment. It is a moment of letting go, of loosening the ego's tight, fearful grip on the world. It is a declaration of trust in abundance over scarcity. The beloved story of the giving tree is a perfect modern parable of dana. It tells of the lifelong relationship between a tree and a little boy. When the boy is young, he gathers the tree's leaves, eats her apples, and swings from her branches. The tree asks for nothing in return and is happy. As the boy grows into a man, he returns again and again, each time wanting something more. He wants money, and the tree offers her apples to sell. He wants a house, and she offers her branches to build one. He wants a boat, and she, now just a trunk, offers her very wood to be carved. With each act of giving, even as she is diminished, the story tells us, the tree was happy. Finally, the boy returns as a stooped, tired old man. He no longer wants anything except a quiet place to sit and rest. The tree, now just a stump, offers herself one last time. "Well," she says, "an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest." And the boy did, and the tree was happy. The tree's happiness is completely tied to its capacity to give. Its purpose is fulfilled not in its own growth or preservation, but in its service to another. This story resonates so deeply because it awakens a truth within our own hearts. We all have an innate desire to contribute, to be of use, to feel that our life has made a positive difference. A life centered on getting eventually feels empty, while a life that includes giving feels meaningful. And this giving, this practice of dana, is not limited to money or material things. In fact, some of the most powerful gifts we can offer are entirely free. In our frantic, distracted world, one of the most profound acts of generosity is to give someone the gift of your full, undivided attention. To put down your phone, to make eye contact, and to listen with a sole intention of understanding is a rare and beautiful offering. The gift of kinnasa, a genuine smile to a stranger, a word of encouragement to someone who is struggling, a helping hand without any expectation of rewards ends, ripples of warmth through the world in ways we can never fully trace. The gift of our unique talents, whether it is a gift for making music, for growing food, for organizing a community, or simply for making people laugh, is our own special way of nourishing the world. And perhaps most powerfully, the gift of forgiveness releasing another, or ourselves, from the heavy burden of resentment, an act of generosity that bestows freedom. The falling leaf, in its final, silent glory, is the ultimate teacher of dana. Its entire being has been an offering. It took from the sun, the air, and the water, and in return, it gave the tree the gift of energy. Now, it takes the beautiful body it has become and prepares to make its final offering to the soil. It holds nothing back. It does not cling to its beauty or its form. It understands that its true, lasting value lies not in how long it can preserve itself, but in the richness of the earth it will help to create. Its ending is not a loss. It is a contribution. Its death is its final, most generous gift. This complete and total act of giving brings the leaf to the very threshold of its journey's end. The dance is almost over. All that remains is the moment of contact, the gentle reunion with the ground from which all life springs. This final, sacred touch is where our journey takes us next. The journey is almost complete. The leaf, having surrendered its will to the wisdom of the wind and gravity, floats in the final inches of air above the earth. The world seems to grow quiet. The chaotic dance slows to a final, deliberate descent. From this place of profound stillness, the ground is no longer a threat, but a promise. It is not an end, but a destination. The leaf does not brace for impact. It prepares for reunion. And then, with an imperceptible softness, it makes the final touch. There is no sound, no dramatic crash. It is a quiet settling, a gentle placement. One edge of the leaf touches a bed of soft moss, and the rest of its body comes to rest with a sigh of completion. In this final moment, there is no frantic, last-ditch flutter of resistance. There is no regret for the heights of the branch or the thrill of the fall. There is only a perfect, peaceful arrival. Its journey is finished. This serene landing is not an accident, nor is it a special grace reserved only for the final moment. The peace with which the leaf touches the ground is a direct result of the peace with which it has traveled. It is the accumulated wisdom of a life lived in a state of letting go. Now, consider the human approach to endings. They are so often filled with turmoil, anxiety, and a frantic accounting of our regrets. When faced with the finality of a departure, a loss, or the end of our own life, the mind floods with the ghosts of unfinished business. If only I had been kinder. If only I had taken that risk. If only I had forgiven them. If only I had said, "I love you" one more time. We are haunted by the life we didn't live fully, the words we didn't speak, the love we didn't express. Our final moments are often spent fighting the reality of the landing, still clinging desperately to the memory of the branch. How then can we learn to arrive with the peace of the leaf? How can we live in such a way that when our own final touch comes, we can meet it with a sense of completion rather than a heart full of regret? There is a powerful Zen teaching that addresses this directly. A student, seeing his master was old and near death, asked him, "Master, you have taught us so much about how to live. Can you please teach us something about how to die?" The master looked at the student with clear, calm eyes and said something both simple and confounding. "There is no secret to dying. The secret is to die now. If you can die completely in this moment, then when the body finally fails, there will be nothing left for you to do." This teaching can sound shocking. It is not an instruction for ending one's physical life. It is a profound instruction for how to live it. To die now means to let go of everything you are clinging to in this very moment. It is the practice of arriving at a state of completion, not at the end of your life, but at the end of every single day, every single moment. To die now means dying to your past. It means you stop carrying the heavy corpses of your old resentments, your guilt, and your failures. You make peace with the person you were yesterday. You forgive those who have wronged you, not for their sake, but for your own, so you are no longer bound to them by the chains of anger. You forgive yourself for your own mistakes, recognizing that you did the best you could with the understanding you had at the time. You let the past be the past, so that it no longer poisons the present. To die now also means dying to your future. It means you release your anxious, white-knuckled grip on outcomes you cannot control. You let go of the need for life to unfold according to your rigid plans and expectations. You still act, you still create, you still love, but you do so with a sense of offering, of giving your best to the moment without being attached to the rewards. You plant the seed with care, but you surrender the harvest to the will of the seasons. When you have died to the baggage of the past and the anxiety of the future, all that remains is the vibrant, living reality of this present moment, and you can finally live it completely. There is no unfinished business, because the business of life is always right now. You speak the words of love and gratitude that need to be spoken, because you know this moment is the only one you truly have. You perform the acts of kindness and service that are called for without procrastination. You live with a sense of wholeness, because you are not holding anything back for a later that may never arrive. We can integrate this into our lives through a simple, daily practice of completion. At the end of each day, before sleep, take a few quiet moments to review the day that has passed. Not with judgment, but with a gentle eye. Is there any small resentment you are still holding on to from a conversation? Let it go. Is there an apology you need to make tomorrow? Make the intention to do so. Is there a moment of beauty or kindness you are grateful for? Acknowledge it with thanks. The goal is to go to sleep each night with a clean heart, to die to that day, so you can be born fresh into the next. This is the leaf's secret. Its peaceful landing is simply the last in a long series of successful lettings go. It let go of the branch. It let go of its resistance to the wind. It let go of its need to be a single, unchanging color. It let go of its very substance in a final, generous offering to the earth. The final touch is not a single, terrifying event, but the natural culmination of a life lived in surrender. By practicing this art of moment-to-moment completion, we prepare ourselves to meet the great landing with grace. When the time comes, there will be no need for a frantic last-minute rush to make amends or to find peace. The peace will already be there, cultivated over a lifetime of small surrenders. The final touch will not be a crash landing in a foreign land. It will be a quiet homecoming, a reunion with the source of all being. And what happens after this final, gentle touch? What becomes of the leaf after its journey is done? That is the final mystery, the great transformation into the soil itself. The final touch has been made. The leaf lies still upon the forest floor, its glorious colors now resting against the dark, damp earth. The dance is over. From the limited perspective of a single life cycle, this is the end of the story. The character has exited the stage. The light has gone out. This is the moment we humans fear most, the full stop at the end of the sentence, the seeming annihilation of a unique and precious being. We see death as an erasure, a journey into nothingness, but the forest operates on a deeper wisdom. For the leaf, this is not an end. It is the beginning of its most mysterious and vital transformation. It is not an act of disappearing, but an act of becoming. The story is not over. It is simply entering its next chapter. This is the chapter of becoming the soil. Lying on the ground, the leaf begins a new kind of surrender. It surrenders its form. The rain comes and softens its structure. The sun warms it, and then the tireless, sacred agents of transformation arrive. The microbes, the fungi, the earthworms, they are not agents of destruction, but of sacred recycling. They begin to lovingly disassemble the leaf, unlocking the treasures it has held all season. The carbon it drew from the air, the minerals it pulled up from the earth, the very sunlight it stored in its cell sol of it, is now slowly, generously released. The leaf ceases to be a leaf. Its distinct shape, its unique pattern of veins, its individual identity, all of it dissolves. But its substance, its essence, does not vanish. It merges with and becomes the rich, dark, fragrant soil. It is no longer a separate entity lying on the earth. It has become one with the earth. It is home. This process offers a profound alternative to our human fears of what lies beyond death. We are often caught between two unsatisfying ideas, either complete, meaningless annihilation, or a journey to some distant, otherworldly heaven that separates us from the earth we have always known. The leaf shows us a third way, the way of transformation and continuation, right here. There is a beautiful Buddhist metaphor that helps to illuminate this mystery. Imagine you are watching the ocean. You see a magnificent wave rise from the depths. It has a unique shape, a specific height, a powerful energy. It travels across the surface of the water, and for a time, it is a distinct and identifiable thing, a wave. Then it reaches the shore and crashes, its form dissolving back into the great body of the ocean. From the wave's perspective, this could be terrifying. It could see other waves crashing and think, soon that will be me. I will be gone forever. I will cease to exist. This is the anxiety of the separate self. But imagine another, wiser wave nearby. It sees the first wave's fear and says, you are afraid because you think you are only a wave. But your essential nature is not waveness. Your true nature is water. You were never separate from the ocean. You are the ocean expressing itself for a moment as a wave. When you crash, you are not dying. You are simply returning to your true, boundless self. The water was never born when you rose, and it does not die when you fall. In that moment of realization, the wave's fear would vanish. The end of its form is no longer an end to its being. It is a homecoming. We are like that wave. Our individual life, with our specific name, our body, our personality, our story is the temporary form. It rises at birth, travels for a time, and dissolves at death. The ego, the part of us that identifies only with the form, is terrified of this dissolution. But our deeper nature, our substance, is like the water. We are expressions of the vast, timeless ocean of life itself. We are life, temporarily taking the form of me. From this perspective, death is not an erasure. It is a reintegration. Our energy, our atoms, the consciousness that animated us, they do not disappear. They are released from their temporary form and return to the great cosmic flow, ready to nourish new forms, new waves, new leaves. This is a different kind of immortality. It is not the immortality of the personal ego, the preservation of the individual wave forever. It is the immortality of the water itself. And we can see this reflected in our human legacy. We often think of our legacy in grand, static terms, the books we write, the buildings we name, the fortunes we leave behind. But our truest legacy is living, dynamic, and largely invisible, just like the soil. The kindness you show a child becomes a part of their character, which they then share with their own children a generation later. Your essence continues in them. The wisdom you share with a friend helps them navigate a difficult choice, and that wisdom, now part of them, is passed on to another. Your influence continues. The love you give does not die with you. It strengthens the hearts of those who received it. making them more capable of loving others. You become part of the fertile, emotional, and psychological soil of humanity. In this way, nothing is ever lost. We are all made of the transformed substance of our ancestors, and we will all become the substance that nourishes the future. The leaf, now fully integrated into the soil, has achieved this humble and profound immortality. It is not famous, its name is not remembered, but it is essential. It is now feeding the roots of the very tree that gave it life, providing the strength for a new bud to form on a high branch next spring. In letting go of its separate self, it has become part of a life that is eternal. This understanding offers a deep and abiding comfort. We do not need to fear our end as a disappearance into nothing. We can trust that it is a transformation, a continuation, a giving back. Our story does not end with a full stop. It ends with our form dissolving, so our essence can be woven back into the first lines of a million new stories. The journey of this one leaf from bud to dancer to soilless, a perfect, complete circle. And this circle, we will find, does not happen just once. It is part of a vast, reliable, and eternal rhythm, the rhythm of the turning seasons. The leaf has become the soil. Its individual form has dissolved, its substance given back to the earth in a final act of generosity. From the limited viewpoint of a single year, the story is over. But if we pull our awareness back even further, we begin to see that this ending is simply one movement in a vast, repeating symphony. The journey of this one leaf is not an isolated event. It is a part of the great, reliable, and eternal rhythm of the seasons. After the leaf falls, the world grows quiet. The trees stand bare against a cold sky. This is winter, the season of stillness, of seeming death. It is a time of turning inward, when all the life force of the forest retreats deep into the unseen roots, gathering strength in the dark and frozen ground. To a mind that knows only summer, winter looks like a catastrophe, an end to all life and joy. But this pause is not an end. It is a sacred and necessary fallow period. And because of the quiet work of winter, an ancient promise is kept. The days begin to lengthen, the ground begins to thaw, and an explosive energy returns. This is spring. The very soil that the old leaf helped to enrich now nourishes the roots, sending life surging up the trunk. On the tip of a high branch, a tiny, vibrant green bud appears, tightly furled against the chill, holding all the promise of the year to come. The cycle has begun again. This great wheel of the year, the birth of spring, the vitality of summer, the release of autumn, the rest of winter is the fundamental rhythm of all life, and our own lives, too, have their seasons. They may not follow a neat calendar, and we may cycle through many seasons within a single lifetime, but the pattern is the same. We all experience our personal springs. These are times of new beginnings, a new relationship, a new career path, a move to a new city, the birth of a creative idea. There is an energy of excitement, of boundless potential, and the tender vulnerability of new growth. We have our summers, periods of peak strength and outward expression. These are the times when our work is flourishing, our relationships are strong, our families are growing. We feel capable, vibrant, and fully engaged in the act of doing and being in the world. We also have our autumns, the seasons of letting go. This can be the time when our children leave home, when we retire from a long-held career, when we release an old dream to make way for a new reality. It is a time of harvesting the wisdom we've gained and of a beautiful, sometimes painful transformation. And, inevitably, we all face our winters. This is the season we fear the most. A winter of the soul can be a period of grief, of illness, of deep uncertainty, of burnout, of feeling utterly lost and unproductive. On the surface, it seems like everything has stopped. The branches of our outer life are bare. We feel fallow, empty, and disconnected. Our culture, with its worship of perpetual summer, teaches us that this winter state is a problem to be fixed. We see it as depression, as failure, as something to be medicated, distracted from, or pushed through with brute force. But to fight one's own winter is as futile and foolish as trying to command a tree to bear fruit in the snow. The wisdom of the seasons teaches us that winter is not a punishment. It is a vital and necessary period of root building. There is a story of the Chinese bamboo tree that perfectly illustrates this truth. When the seed of this remarkable tree is planted, the farmer must water and tend to the soil for an entire year, yet nothing appears above the ground. The second year, he continues to care for the barren patch of earth, and still nothing. The third year, nothing. The fourth year, still nothing. Many would have given up, convinced the seed was dead. But then, sometime in the fifth year, a tiny sprout finally breaks the surface. And in the next 6 weeks, the tree shoots up to a staggering height of over 80 feet. The question is, did the tree grow 80 feet in 6 weeks? The answer is no. It grew for 5 years. For 4 of those years, all the growth was happening underground, unseen. It was developing a massive, complex, and powerful root system, a foundation strong enough to support the spectacular, rapid growth that was to come. Without the long, dark, patient, and seemingly unproductive winter, the glorious summer would have been impossible. Our personal winters are our time for growing roots. When the outer world goes quiet and our branches are bare, it is an invitation to send our energy downward into the deep, inner soil of our being. This is the time for rest, for reflection, for healing. It is when we develop the unseen foundations of resilience, compassion, and true self-knowledge. To fight this process, to demand that we be productive and cheerful when our soul is calling for rest, is to deny ourselves the very growth we will need for the seasons to come. The practice, then, is to learn to honor our own season, to pause and ask with gentle honesty, what season am I in right now? And to align our actions with that reality. If you are in a winter, give yourself permission to retreat, to rest more, to say no, to be unproductive without guilt. Trust that you are building roots. If you are in a summer, embrace it fully. Enjoy your strength and capacity, and express yourself in the world. To try and force rest in a summer is as unwise as trying to force growth in a winter. This requires a deep and abiding trust in the cyclical nature of life. If you are in a painful winter, you must hold on to the faith that this is a season, not a permanent address. Spring will come again. The sun will return. The branches will bud. This is not a naive, hopeful wish. It is a faith rooted in a law of nature as fundamental and reliable as gravity. The journey of the leaf is a single, perfect note in this grand, eternal composition. Its fall is not a tragedy. It is a necessary, beautiful, and generative act that makes the next spring possible. By understanding this, we learn to trust the unfolding of our own lives. We can endure our winters with patience, knowing we are gathering strength. We can embrace our autumns with grace, knowing we are releasing what is no longer needed. We can greet our springs with joy and our summers with vigor. This vast, cyclical perspective brings us to the final, unifying insight of our entire journey. It is the realization that peace is not a destination to be reached, not the spring after the winter, not the ground after the fall. Peace is the quality of awareness we bring to the journey itself, through every season, in every moment. This is the ultimate lesson of the falling leaf. We have journeyed together through the landscapes of acceptance and letting go, using the simple, profound image of a falling leaf as our guide. We have seen how it surrenders to the unknown, how it connects with the whole, and how it finds grace in its descent. Now, we arrive at the culmination of this wisdom, an understanding that reorients our entire search for peace. It is the realization that peace is not a destination we arrive at after our fall is complete. Peace is discovered in every single moment of the fall itself. It is the path, not the prize at the end of it. Our minds are conditioned to believe in a transactional reality, especially when it comes to our own well-being. We live our lives caught in what we might call the when-then fallacy. When I get that promotion, then I will feel secure and at peace. When my children are grown and settled, then I will have time for myself. When this health issue is resolved, then I can finally stop worrying and be happy. We constantly postpone our peace, placing it in a hypothetical future that is contingent on our external circumstances arranging themselves perfectly. We treat the present moment, our actual life, as a mere stepping stone, an obstacle course to be endured on the way to a future reward. But this is a recipe for perpetual dissatisfaction. The future we imagine never truly arrives, because as soon as one condition is met, the mind, in its habitual way, creates a new one. We are always waiting, always striving, and never arriving. We spend our entire lives on the journey without ever realizing that the journey itself was meant to be the destination. The falling leaf offers us a radical alternative to this way of living. Let us look at it one more time with deeper understanding. The leaf does not wait until it has landed safely on the soft earth to be at peace. It does not bargain with the universe, saying, "I will be at peace," when the wind stops blowing so hard. The peace of the leaf is found in the very act of its surrender. Its tranquility is embedded in its dance with the unpredictable currents of the air. It yields, it spins, it glides, it tumbles. In its complete acceptance of the forces acting upon it, it finds a state of effortless grace. It is not fighting gravity or cursing the wind. It is flowing with what is. This is a profound teaching. It shows us that peace is not the absence of motion or challenge. Peace is a quality of profound harmony with motion, a deep alignment with the unfolding of life, whatever that may bring. This is what the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh meant when he famously said, "There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. We do not walk a difficult path in order to find peace. We learn to walk the difficult path peacefully. Peace is not a reward for winning the game of life. Peace is the choice we make, moment by moment, in how we play the game. It is the conscious decision to meet our reality with acceptance rather than resistance. It is the internal shift from fighting the current to learning how to navigate it with grace. This reorientation changes everything. It means that peace is available to us right now, in this very moment, regardless of whether our life is calm or chaotic. It is not dependent on our problems being solved. It is dependent only on our willingness to change our relationship to our problems. So how do we bring the wisdom of the falling leaf into the fabric of our everyday lives? We practice it in the small moments that so often cause us stress and agitation. Imagine you are caught in a traffic jam, late for an important appointment. The habitual response is resistance, tension in the shoulders, frustration, anger at the situation. The way of the leaf is to first accept the reality, I am in traffic. I am not moving. From that acceptance, you can let go. You can feel the seat beneath you, notice the sky through the windshield, listen to the hum of the engine. You can surrender to the moment. And in that surrender, find a space of calm amidst the frustration. Imagine you are in a tense meeting at work. Instead of meeting rigid energy with more rigidity, you can be like the leaf. You can listen with openness, yield internally to the other person's perspective without sacrificing your own, and respond with a flexibility that de-escalates conflict. When you must have a difficult conversation with a loved one, you can practice letting go of the outcome. You can speak your truth with kindness and clarity, and then, like the leaf, you can surrender to how it is received, trusting that you have acted with integrity. In every scenario, the practice is the same: to notice our resistance and to consciously choose to soften, to yield, to accept, and to flow with the reality of the moment. This is how the journey itself becomes a state of peace. We have traveled a long way together on this journey of discovery. Our path began high on a branch, where we felt like a single leaf, clinging fearfully to the only life we knew. We were afraid of the unknown, afraid of letting go, afraid of the inevitable fall. But together, we found the courage to release our grip. We learned to dance with the present moment, to find grace in the surrender to forces greater than ourselves. We faced the moments of darkness and uncertainty during our descent, and in doing so, we connected with all the other leaves on their own journeys, realizing we were never truly alone. And finally, we came to understand that touching the ground is not an end to be feared, but a transformation, a sacred return to the earth that will nourish the very roots of the tree from which we came. The core message we are left with: is a simple yet profound invitation to live like a falling leaf. We have learned that peace is not the absence of the storm, but the stillness of the soul in the midst of it. It is not a perfect set of external circumstances, but an internal capacity that is cultivated through the steady practice of acceptance, mindfulness, and wisdom. It is the ability to meet life in all its beauty and all its pain with an open heart and a quiet mind. You do not need to escape your life or move to a monastery to find this peace. The wisdom of the falling leaf can be practiced anywhere, by anyone. It can be practiced right here, right now, in the midst of your busy, modern life. And so we leave you with this gentle encouragement. The next time you see a leaf falling, allow yourself to pause, just for a moment. Watch its silent, graceful descent. And in that moment, remember the profound lesson of letting go, the quiet courage of surrender, and the peace that is always available when we choose to dance with life rather than fight it.